We've been following this case now for years, and finally, the verdict is in. Chad and Lori Valadabel now both guilty in this case, and uh, and we're also just waiting now here in the next few minutes. We're going to see the penalty phase in this death penalty trial move forward. We're going to see if the jury decides that Chad Daybell should go on death row or not. I actually got to head back into the courtroom now to be in there for that as it's about to get started. So I'll keep you posted here in Boise, live outside the courthouse. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
So Daybell was standing motionless through all 9 verdicts, and the surprise, yes, the judge announcing that sentencing will begin in 1 hour. KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas is still here in the studio. Greg, I appreciate you staying late. Explain this. You had told us that the sentencing hearing would probably take place in, 60 days. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's a penalty phase, and it's a whole different trial, Boyd, a whole different set of evidence, a set of witnesses, a standard of proof, and you would expect that the judge would give each side a chance to gear up for that because it's not guilt anymore. It's what do we do about it? It's aggravating and mitigating factors about Chad Daybell. So the judge must have teed up both sides and said, look, whatever the verdict is, if it's a guilty verdict, we're going straight to the penalty phase, or we're going to start that in an hour. To me, that's unheard of. It's probably not even fair to the defense team to say, look, you've got to have all your ducks in a row here. We're going to start the penalty phase in a few minutes.
Okay, so first of all, they don't have a chance to gather evidence, get their witnesses together. I mean, this sentencing phase consists of a lot of discussion and evidence about the character of the man convicted, right?
Exactly. It's aggravating and mitigating factors, not guilt or innocence anymore, just who he is. And I'm sure there'll be people coming in saying, I knew him when he was a child, he was a good kid. I'm sure there'll be people coming in saying it was monstrous what he did. He killed 3 people, including 2 children. And the jury's going to have to weigh the aggravating versus the mitigating. And if 12 out of 12, that is unanimously agree that the aggravating factors outweigh the mitigating factors beyond a reasonable doubt, they can impose the penalty of death.
Okay, that's a really cogent explanation, but a really simple question. How do they do the death penalty in Idaho?
They do it similar to what we do here, and it's a separate trial. As you know, Jeff, if a person's convicted of a crime, the judge decides what the punishment is. The exception to that is a death penalty case, and there is a separate trial. It's called the penalty phase, and then the jury goes back and they say, members of the jury, what do you think the appropriate punishment should be here? They can choose life. They can choose life without the possibility of parole, or they can choose the death penalty, and the jury will have to make that determination. It's the only kind of case in America, Jeff, the only kind of criminal case where the jury decides the punishment.
And is it death by lethal injection in Idaho?
I think that's the only method that Idaho uses. Every state has its own process. But, I mean, we haven't seen executions out of the state of Idaho, at least in the last decade or so.
Greg, I hope you'll stick around. We have a lot of legal things to talk about because also the jury has reached a verdict at the Trump hush money trial. Maria Chaleos live now at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, the jury expected back in the courtroom in the next few minutes. Right now, filling out the form detailing their decision on all 34 charges against Mr. Trump. Jurors have been evaluating the former president's guilt and innocence alongside the facts of the case. Now, the panel deliberated for more than 4 hours yesterday and asked the judge to rehear both jury instructions and portions of the testimony from 2 key witnesses. After considering that evidence, they are quickly back with their decision. Outside the courtroom, the crowd has been growing. ABC's Aaron Katersky reports people are gathering to hear the verdict.
Maria, we're going to interrupt because the jury is now entering the courtroom at the Trump trial in New York. We're going to go live to ABC News coverage. Remember, there is no TV coverage inside the courtroom.
In the state of New York, punishable by up to 4 years in prison. A felony, not a misdemeanor, when business records are falsified to aid or conceal the commission of another crime. Trump has, of course, denied guilt and criticized the case since even before the charges were announced against him last year. The defendant, the former president of the United States, is sitting at the defense table. He stood as the jury entered. His arms were very tightly crossed, stone-faced. He was taking deep sighs. It was dead quiet in the courtroom prior to the jury's entrance just about a minute or 2 ago. The district attorney of New York City, of Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, is also in the courtroom. Eric Trump is present, but not Don Jr., Ivanka, or Tiffany, the former president's other children. The foreperson of the jury has just stood, and we now await the verdict from the jury. The first count, guilty. Donald Trump found guilty of making false business records. Second count, guilty. Third count, guilty. We await further word of additional counts, but the people of the state of New York have won so far in 3 of the 34 counts regarding allegations that Donald Trump falsified business records.
The first 3 counts coming down as you're listening to live coverage from ABC News. Guilty on those first 3. We're waiting the rest. Now numbers 4 through 14 coming down. Guilty as well. Guilty on number 15. Guilty on number 16. Guilty on number 17. Each of these individual counts involving falsifying business records. Guilty on 18 and 19. 20 guilty as well. So far, guilty on all counts. Guilty on 21. Guilty on 22. We await now from there, getting up to 34. Guilty on 23. Guilty on 24. And guilty on 25. As this is coming in from our team in the courtroom in Manhattan. Guilty on 26. Guilty on 27. We await guilty on 28. This next one, 29, an invoice from Michael Cohen. Guilty on 29. Guilty on 30. We await 31. Guilty on 31. Guilty on 32. Waiting number 33. Guilty on 33. And guilty on 34. ABC's Stephen Portnoy guilty on all 34 counts against the former president of the United States.
Donald Trump is now a convicted felon, found guilty by a jury of his peers in a New York courtroom. All 34 counts. Felony falsification of business records in the first degree. So far, no word of any reaction but inside the courtroom, but a big cheer outside, we're told. This was certainly a moment in American legal history, a moment in American political history, a moment in the life of the 45th president who hopes to become the 47th president, and there will be reaction across the country. But right now, Donald Trump stands convicted.
If you are just joining us right now, guilty on all 34 counts against former President Donald Trump. No matter what you believe about this case, whether it was political or not political, warranted or not warranted, this is an historic moment right now that we are living through of a former president found guilty on 34 felony counts, potentially the next president of the United States, convicted right now. I want to bring in Royal Oakes, our ABC News legal contributor. Royal, what happens now? There is the potential here of prison time. The likelihood of that is what?
Well, it's pretty unlikely, Alex, in the sense that this is his first offense. This is a unique situation involving President Trump. It's a non-violent crime. And yet you never know. When a jury says guilty to 34 felonies, it's possible that some jail time could be involved. Of course, the immediate question would be, would the president be taken into custody pending his sentencing? The sentencing will be weeks down the road. And if not, then if he
This is KSL News Radio. You're listening to ABC News coverage of the verdict at former President Trump's hush money trial. Again, found guilty on 34 counts. Your phone is probably blowing up with the news right now, but what we want to provide is a little bit of perspective. In the studio with me, KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas, and our Inside Sources host, Boyd Matheson. There's the legal and there's the political, and gentlemen, you are the two perfect people to talk to. First of all, Greg Skordas, 34 counts. What penalty do these charges carry?
These are felonies in the state of New York. My understanding is that each of them carry a penalty of up to 4 years. He's not going to do 4 years. He's probably not going to do 4 months, but these are felonies. There was a way that the jury could have found misdemeanors in this case, but the way the state charged it, there were felonies. And I think Boyd and I talked about it earlier. The quick verdict meant it was probably going to be 34-0, either guilty or not guilty. So the verdict isn't necessarily a surprise, and the unanimity of the verdict isn't a surprise either. The fact that the jury came down all the way on every single count the same.
That's the word we use, do. He might do 4 years in prison, but I want to get granular with this because him spending time in a jail cell, in a prison, changes the entire complexion of the presidential race. So what are we really talking about? Is it possible that he won't do any time whatsoever, that it could be, what do they call it, home arrest, an ankle bracelet, or even something more relaxed than that?
possible, maybe not probable. I mean, he caused a lot of problems, and this judge has every reason to impose some sentence, to make some example out of him. Now, if you or I were convicted of these same charges, there's no question, Jeff, that we'd be going to jail for a substantial period of time. This is Donald Trump. I mean, this is a different kind of a case, a different kind of just all of it is different. But he's going to get a report. The judge is going to get some information. The judge has to weigh his lack of remorse and his complete contempt for the court during the entirety of the trial, his making comments and public comments the entire time. That didn't go well with this judge. And I think the judge has to temper that with the fact that he was personally attacked by Donald Trump. And he's kind of going to have to say, look, do I want to impose a stiff sentence so it looks like I'm hurt by this, or do I want to go light and say, look, what you did was wrong, but I'm going to give you a light sentence?
But is the judge also weighed down by history? I am going to be the first judge ever to put a former president of the United States in a prison cell.
Yeah, and that's not something a judge ever wants to do. No judge in America ever wants to be in that position. And by the way, this isn't a good day for America. I don't care which side you're on. This is a tough decision. I'm sure this judge is thinking, now I've got to make the decision of my lifetime. And that's not going to happen anytime soon, but they're going to have a sentencing phase where the judge is going to impose the sentence on the former president and decide what, if any, amount of time he's going to serve behind bars in the state of New York.
Now, we've been talking about the Chad Daybell trial and sentencing there, which is a different matter entirely. It's a death penalty case, and they're going to go over the entire. It's basically, this is your life, Chad Daybell.
Right.
This is different. What does the sentencing phase consist of?
It's a hearing. The judge decides. And the difference between Chad Daybell and Donald Trump is the judge will decide the punishment. So the judge will get a report from a sentencing commission about the president's former criminal history, his life history, his job history, the things we all know anyway. And they'll put him into a matrix. You know, what would a person with this number of crimes and this criminal history what would they normally expect in terms of a prison sentence? And I'm sure that he's going to land on a sentence of probation. Now, 34 felonies, maybe that sort of weighs in favor of some time, but home detention, probation, the things that you would expect a first-time offender to get, he's probably going to get. Again, sometime 30, 60, 90 days wouldn't be out of the realm, but he's not going to go to prison, a New York prison for 4
Do we
years.
have any idea when the sentencing hearing is going to be held? Have they announced that yet in the courtroom?
The judge will. Those are typically 30 to 60 days after the conviction, so that the judge has time to get the report from the probation department.
So theoretically, as we're heading toward the Republican convention, the judge could decide on some type of prison sentence, and Donald Trump could be handcuffed in a courtroom. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's 100% correct, and it may very well occur.
And this is why it's wonderful that Inside Sources host Boyd Matheson is here to look at the political impact of what's happened today. Does it make a difference?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, and I want to go back to Greg's point. This is not a good day. I don't care if you're a far-left Democrat or if you're a Joe Biden supporter or wherever you fall on the political spectrum. This is not a good day for the Republic. And I think we should all step back from that and just recognize this is not a good day for the Republic. We need to expect more out of our leaders at every level. And so this is one that played out. It played out for a lot of us over the last 5 weeks. And as you look at that, I think in terms of the impact, the interesting thing in terms of the data, 67% of Americans said whatever this announcement is today from the jury will not impact who they vote for in the presidential race in 2024. 67%. Now, some of those had already decided to vote for Joe Biden, so that's a big bucket of it. And then there are a number of those that are for the former president, and they're not changing their mind either based on this particular case. So that's an interesting thing to look at in terms of what the impact is. My guess is I'm just actually watching my computer screen to see when the first fundraising emails come out from both the Democrats and the Republicans for the politics of what this announcement means today.
So, Boyd, you mentioned 67% of people say their vote is not impacted by what's transpiring today in a New York courtroom. That means my math is not great.
23.
23?
33.
33. Sorry. See, I don't do math either.
33% might be swayed by what's happening.
Yeah, and that's an important number because we know this is going to be a very close
Given
election.
The closeness, right.
It's going to be very tight, and the states that it's going to impact the most, there's 7 of them that I think will be most significant. So if you look at North Carolina and Georgia and Arizona and Nevada and Michigan and Pennsylvania, those are the places where it could be within a single percentage point in terms of the difference of who wins those electoral votes from those states. So if 33% say they are persuadable based on the result of this particular case. That's bad news for the Trump campaign because they had a lot of work to do anyway in a very tight race, and now that hurdle got just a little bit higher.
Well, I want to ask Greg Skordas. We were talking about the possibility of prison or jail. Those two words to laymen are sometimes interchangeable. Would Donald Trump be sent to prison or to jail? It makes a difference if you're the person going.
Yeah, so typically we think, Jeff, of prison as people who are serving time for a felony that's more than a year. Jail is for people who are serving misdemeanor time or felonies for less than a year. That's generally when we think of it. Jail is for short-termers, and I would bet just about anything that Trump is not sent to a New York prison.
Okay, I'm hearing right now, as we're juggling these courtroom stories, they're going to the sentencing phase right now at the Chad Daybell trial. Do we have the ability to bring this on the air? Let's listen to the first few minutes here on KSL News Radio.
And present, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for continuing your jury service. You've again been seated for your continued service in this case. And that's the matter we're taking up at this time. To give you an idea of just the schedule, the court has some preliminary instructions that are going to be read to you this afternoon. We're going to commence then with further evidence on the sentencing phase starting tomorrow morning after I read these preliminary instructions. And the court's proposal on our typical scheduled plan would be to start at 8:30. Is the state going to be ready to proceed at 8:30 with any impact statements that may be offered?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. That's how we'll run the scheduling at this point then, and I'll inquire as to the jurors going forward. Also, the scheduling we'll have during this phase of the proceedings. They don't need to be limited to the timeframes we've had throughout the trial, including, depending on how long this takes, weekends. So I am essentially leaving up to the jurors their proposed schedule within reason of when we'll work through this proceeding. So the court is going to read some preliminary instructions then to the jurors. And again, you'll receive additional jurors when you retire to deliberate on this part of the case. But for now, the court will just read these and those will be included with you later. So in this case, the defendant in this case has been convicted now of the crimes of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. We will now have a sentencing phase of the trial regarding those offenses. Additional evidence may be presented during the sentencing phase. You should also consider the evidence presented during the trial. Before the death penalty can be considered, the state must prove at least one statutory aggravating circumstance beyond a reasonable doubt. If you unanimously decide that the state has so proven one or more statutory aggravating circumstances, then you must decide whether the imposition of the death penalty would be unjust by weighing all mitigating circumstances against each proven statutory aggravating circumstance. At a separate proceeding, the court will sentence the defendant for other offenses of which you have found the defendant guilty. Instruction number 2. Your duties are to determine the facts, to apply the law set forth in my instruction to those facts.
We're going to interrupt this hearing, the sentencing hearing for Chad Daybell, because it looks like former President Trump is about to speak after the guilty verdicts. This is live on KSL.
It was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a so-respect DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble, but this was a rigged decision right from day one. with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Why should voters vote for a convicted felon?
Are you going to drop out?
You believe in the rule of law? You trust the jury? Are you going to drop out?
Former President Trump choosing not to answer reporters' shouted questions as we become used to the echo of the hallways of a New York courtroom, a brief statement about disgrace. This time we heard the whole country is rigged. This is KSL News Radio. We're covering two trials, the Chad Daybell trial. As a surprise, the sentencing phase began an hour after the verdict, instead of the usual wait of 60 days. And in the Trump case, 34 counts, the former president guilty. He's now a convicted felon. In the studio with me, KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas and Inside Sources host Boyd Matheson. First of all, where do we begin, Greg? There's so much going on this afternoon.
Oh, it's shocking. And we heard both closing arguments yesterday, so I guess it's no surprise that we're getting verdicts so quickly. I didn't expect them both the same day, let alone the same hour almost. But yeah, so the Chad Daybell sentencing phase that we thought was going to start immediately is technically starting tomorrow. The judge just brought the jury back in to say, hey, we're starting this penalty phase tomorrow, and the state's going to have to put on some aggravating factors to get you to believe one way or the other whether or not the imposition of death is appropriate or not unanimously. Trump sentencing, the judge is probably setting that now or will shortly. That's going to be sometime down the road.
Okay, so meantime, let's begin with Trump.
Sure.
He just spoke. He said the whole country is rigged. President Biden was responsible for the charges and the verdict against him. Is there any evidence to support that claim that we've heard over and over and over? And I'll ask both of you, Boyd, Greg.
No.
I mean, no. And this is a state case. It wasn't a federal case. The President Biden had no authority over what a New York district attorney charges. He can't pardon Trump. He can't appoint the district attorney. The people in New York voted that man in power, and he made the decision what he thought was appropriate. And by the way, everyone will say this, and I think Boyd and I talked about this earlier. Everyone thought this New York case was the weakest of the 4 criminal cases against the former president. So this does not look well for the other 3 trials.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. Again, this is a state case. As Greg pointed out, that's the most important part of this. There's no way for President Biden to weigh in on this case or have any authority or any influence on it. And he's also been very quiet about it. His people have been very strategic, I think wisely, to stay arm's length. They're not commenting on the trial. They haven't from the podium in the White House press room. And so all of that, I think, is, again, a little bit of the anger and angst bubbling up there from the president. And you can also hear from the former president how he is going to pivot on this. And that is, it is part of the grievance message of the system is rigged. They're out to get me. If they're out to get me, they're out to get you. And so I think you're going to hear a doubling down of that kind of messaging. And going back to full circle to Greg's point, everyone that I've talked to has felt this was the weakest of all the cases against the former president. The fact that this only took the jury 11 hours and 34 minutes, and the fact that they came back unanimous on 34 significant charges is pretty telling, not just what the prosecution did, but I think it's also telling in terms of what the Trump defense team did not do in the case.
Right.
Greg, you've watched this trial, or at least you've followed along. His lawyers had chains on them that they had to do what their client wanted them to do in every instance. Well, tell them this. And tell them that.
Right. And that's part of being a defense attorney. You know, you've got to appeal to the jury. You can't make the judge angry. You've got the state on the other side. But who's paying the bill? And who do you really work for? In a defense case, you work for the client, and you do what the client feels are appropriate as long as you stay within your ethical boundaries. And that means putting on a defense, fighting everything. I mean, I thought they did a very good job of attacking Michael Cohen, who was the state. Originally, we thought he was their star witness. The state ended up being number 20 out of 20, so he wasn't the star witness. But the defense went after him with everything they had.
Yeah, and I thought that was a really interesting thing that Cohen, I think, may have been like the false flag of kind of distracting the Trump team in saying, oh, we've got to focus on Cohen. But the reality was Cohen was a very small player in the prosecution's case.
Right.
It was the 20 people around that really made it. And I think the Trump team overemphasized trying to undermine Cohen. Cohen wasn't really the issue in the end, at least the way the jury saw it.
Right.
Lawyers do the Monday morning quarterbacking on cases like this. Everybody else is gravitating toward the effect on the presidential race and what happens next to Donald Trump. Well, the first thing that happened was that he held court outside the courthouse. And with the echo in the background, he said the whole country is rigged. This is President Biden. Throughout this trial, he said the prosecutor, the DA, Alvin Bragg in New York, has been out to get him. Is there any evidence of that? Because this guy did say, if I'm elected, I'm going to get Donald Trump.
Well, that was unfortunate. It was something that probably shouldn't have been said. And I think what he was saying was nobody's above the law. And in my jurisdiction, if you commit a crime, I don't care who you are, even if you're the former president, I'm coming after you. But he did make it appear that Donald Trump was in his crosshairs, maybe for good reason. But that's not the kind of thing you say as a district attorney. I was a prosecutor for 8 years, Jeff. Those are the kind of statements you leave for another day.
Should never be about you as the prosecutor.
Right.
It should never be about the DA. It should never be about any of those folks. Their job is to run the process.
Right.
And I think it's very unfortunate that you had someone as a campaign promise making the fact that they're going to take Donald Trump to court part of it undermines our trust in the system. Same thing we were talking earlier about the state of Georgia. It is unfortunate because these cases matter. These are important things for the people of the country to see, but they shouldn't have to see it through the political lens of people who are supposed to be above the politics playing into the politics, unforced error, saying in a campaign event, I'm going to go after Donald Trump, or the DA or the Attorney General, DA in Fulton County saying the same thing and making all of those mistakes. It undermines trust in the system. And that's what I worry most about on a day like today.
Boyd, thanks so much, the host of Inside Sources. He'll be back tomorrow afternoon on KSL at 1 p.m. And also our KSL legal analyst. Thank you so much, Greg Skordas, who will be back over and over and over again because we have so much going on with the Chad Daybell sentencing hearing beginning lightning fast and this verdict. 34 counts of guilty against Donald Trump. Stay with us. Our coverage will continue on KSL News Radio.
Paid for by the Lyman for Utah Committee.
In recent years, we've seen the legislature cut the income tax rate marginally, yet income tax revenue continues to climb dramatically. If we really want to help people, we could cut the income tax rate more dramatically, cut it in half, cut it by 80%, and still pay the bills if we would optimize, minimize, privatize state services. As your governor, that's what I'm committed to do. I'm Phil Lyman, and I'm running for governor.
Phil Lyman for governor.
Traffic, there we go. Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have some slowdowns already setting in on southbound I-15 between 4500 south into Draper and again rounding the point of the mountain, but clear on the rest of your Salt Lake County freeways. Steve?
Southbound Foothill Drive, a little busy by Foothill Village. Otherwise, northbound 15 good to go from downtown. Slowdown setting in now from Clearfield up to Roy. Get your lawn off to a good start with Revive Organic Soil Treatment. Greener grass using less water. Spread it or spray it. Revive Organic Soil Treatment. Available at your favorite garden center or revive.com. Steve Carlson at the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll be down about 7 degrees from yesterday's high. How about 73 this afternoon with mostly sunny skies? Overnight, 50. Tomorrow we're going to go sunshine and a high of 80 degrees. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Matt Johnson.
And right now in Ogden, 68 degrees, sunshine. It's partly cloudy in Provo, and 70 down in St. George, a sweltering 91 degrees.
You're listening to Jeff Caplan's Afternoon News
on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM
and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, 3:30 at KSL. Jeff Caplan here. We're at 72 degrees. A busy afternoon at KSL News Radio. First of all, the Trump verdict came in about 15 minutes ago. Guilty on 34 counts. We'll get to coverage of that in just a moment. We also have the Daybell verdict in. The jury in Boise finding Chad Daybell guilty of 3 murders in all. The word guilty heard 9 times in the courtroom. Daybell stood motionless through all 9 verdicts, and the surprise, instead of waiting 60 days, the judge announced that we'll begin sentencing in an hour. And in fact, it did begin with a few instructions to the jury, and they'll take up the matter of basically playing This Is Your Life Chad Daybell tomorrow morning, the end result deciding whether he'll face the death penalty and lethal injection in Idaho. Now, let's talk about the Trump verdict. Just in a few short minutes ago, Maria Chaleos is live at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, Mr. Trump has been convicted of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in his hush money trial. After the guilty verdicts were read, the former president once again saying the case against him has been unfair.
I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution.
Mr. Trump vowing to fight the conviction.
Because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess.
Each of the 34 felony counts carrying up to a 4-year prison sentence. It marks the first time in history that a former U.S. president has been tried on criminal charges. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
As you'd expect, reaction is pouring into the Trump verdict in New York. Among those who have reached out to us, or we've reached out to, former Congresswoman Enid Mickelson is on the line. So what was your take, hearing the word guilty 34 times?
I'm not surprised. I think that the prosecution had done a pretty good job of laying out a case where you had to ask yourself, why were these payments being made to Cohen? Why were they being entered the way they were? But, I mean, the bigger picture here is, where do we go from here? We've got a candidate for president and a former president who's now been convicted of 34 felonies in the midst of a campaign to return to the White House. So I think what will happen is that the Trump team will file an appeal. The judge apparently had set a sentencing date of July 11th. And that's not unusual, because usually what the court would do is to gather information in what's called a pre-sentencing report, get recommendations from people as to, what should be done, whether he should serve time. But my guess is that the appeals court will put that on hold until the appeals court has determined Trump's appeal. But will the appeals court do that quickly? Because do you leave the electorate in limbo as to whether he's going to be able to serve as president? Now, he can serve even as a convicted felon. But how does he serve from a prison cell if he, in fact, has to do time for this? So there are so many unknowns here. But I cannot say that I was surprised by the verdict, and not just because this was in New York, but because I think the jury paid careful attention to the fact that this wasn't just about falsifying the business records. It was about the purpose. The purpose was to influence an election. And when you do that, there are a whole host of other laws that come into effect. And so if you are spending money to influence an election, that has to show up on your federal election campaign reports. That didn't happen here. So this isn't just about falsifying the business records. It was falsifying business records to be able to influence a campaign. And I think that the jury caught that.
Apparently they did, coming back rather quickly, guilty on 34 counts, on all counts, against former President Trump. Thanks for joining us. Former Utah Congresswoman Enid Mickelson. Meantime, we have a tweet on X, a post on X from Senator Mike Lee, calling it a sad day for America. The verdict against Donald Trump, he says, marred by unclear charges and irregular jury instructions, sets a dangerous precedent. This was a political prosecution to help Joe Biden, a weaponization of our justice system that threatens the very fabric of our republic. That's Senator Mike Lee. Meantime, the Biden-Harris 2024 communications director has released a statement. This is the Biden campaign. In New York today, we saw that no one is above the law. Donald Trump has always mistakenly believed he would never face consequences for breaking the law for his own personal gain. But today's verdict does not change the fact that American people face a simple reality. There is still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office at the ballot box. Convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president. That's from the Biden-Harris Campaign Committee. Our coverage of the Chad Daybell verdict and the Trump verdict will continue on KSL News Radio. Now, 3:36, First Look traffic. Ricky Meese, how's the rush?
We have no freeway crashes, but we do have delays that have started to set in on I-15 in Salt Lake County, scattered in spots southbound from 45th South Murray to SR 92 Temp Highway in Lehigh. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Our coverage will continue through the afternoon. You'll want to stay with us at KSL News Radio, and more news is on the way in just a moment.
It's Dino Day at all Sinclair locations Saturday, June 1st. Fuel up, saving up to 30 cents per gallon on Sinclair's top-tier premium-grade fuel using Dino Pay. Come early and grab some Dino swag. Remember, Saturday, June 1st at all Sinclair locations.
Love the filler moments at a Sinclair gas station near you with Dino Care, our top-tier gasoline for a cleaner engine. Some sweet and salty snacks for the commute, and a big green Dino for the memories. Find a gas station near you at sinclairoil.com.
Hello, I'm Case Lawrence, and I'm running for Congress. Our skyrocketing national debt is the greatest risk to the American dream. We can fix America's debt crisis, but not with politicians who are more worried about their next election than America's next generation. I'm not a politician. I'm a problem solver. I hope you'll join me. I'm Case Lawrence, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Case for Congress.
911, what's your emergency? Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son.
On September 12, 1995, McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas.
There was no sign of forced entry. It was just as if McKay had walked out of his own free will.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, feels that justice was never truly served. Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Spend your workday with a talk show that makes you feel better about the news.
Debbie is the voice of reason, and Dave reminds me of my little brother. Well-spoken, and they're a great team together.
Dave and Debbie, live from 9 to noon, or podcast the show on the app for KSL News Radio.
KSL News Time 3:38. Developing news on KSL News Radio. We're following reaction to the Trump verdict in New York. Guilty on all 34 counts. Meantime, the jury, about an hour earlier up in Boise, found Chad Daybell guilty of 3 murders in all. The word guilty heard 9 times. KSL News Radio's Adam Small is at the courthouse. He was in the courtroom as the verdicts were read up in Boise, and he's joining us live. Adam?
Yeah, Jeff, honestly, you could count maybe 20, 25 minutes leading up to when the judge came in to receive that verdict and for the courthouse person to read it out loud. About 20, 25 minutes, you could hear a pin drop in that absolutely packed courtroom in anticipation of this years-long case, another chapter in this long case finally coming to a close. Again, Chad Daybell found guilty on all counts, multiple counts of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud. Again, like I said earlier, this has been a long time coming, a case, an investigation that started back in late 2019, and here we are 4.5 years later and finally getting a verdict in Chad's involvement in this conspiracy.
Now, the sentencing part of this, a huge surprise, is going to begin tomorrow morning, right?
Yeah, it happened really quick. I mean, we went back in there. We were all shocked when the judge asked us to come back an hour after that verdict was read to begin the penalty phase of this capital case. And we basically went in and the judge read the jury their instructions for this portion of the case, but then says, okay, let's break until tomorrow morning at 8:30 when we will pick up potentially new evidence, because the state now, their burden is to prove that there was a statutory aggravating factor in this conspiracy, in this crime. That is now the focus of this. We're going to see new evidence. We are going to hear potentially new witnesses as well. Again, starting at 8:30, and first time I actually got a ticket for this packed Ada County courthouse, so I know for sure I will be in there tomorrow morning.
Well, you'll be in Boise getting some rest tonight. Thanks for the coverage. KSL News Radio's Adam Small. Reaction, meantime, is pouring into the Trump verdict. We'll have more coming up right now. Traffic and weather together were brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate on June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Ricky, bring us up to speed.
We do have southbound slowdowns on I-15 in Salt Lake County. Mostly between 4500 south to the Southtown Mall, and then they pick up again at Bangerter Highway, rounding the point of the mountain into Lehigh. We're pretty clear on the rest of your Salt Lake County freeways, as well as I-15 in Utah County, but traffic's starting to get busy and slow southbound on Mountain View, approaching 3500 south, and heavy and sometimes slow both directions of Bangerter Highway between California Avenue and 3500 South. Steve?
Crash-free, normal speeds on northbound 15 from downtown Salt Lake into Davis County this afternoon. Do have delays, though. Clearfield up to Roy, a bit thick on the southbound side in Sunset. And a crash clearing by Syracuse High School at 200 South, 2000 West. Got the right lane closed there. And in Salt Lake, southbound Foothill Drive, a little busy from Sunnyside Avenue out to 17 South. UDOT construction alert starting Monday, planned for overnight and weekend lane closures on northbound 15 in Sandy as crews begin bridge work. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
How about a high of 73, mostly sunny skies by this afternoon. Overnight, 50 degrees, clear skies. And for tomorrow, 80, sunshine. We then take it to 88 for your Saturday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Matt Johnson.
It's pleasant 72 degrees in Salt Lake City, so former President Trump is now a convicted felon. Sentencing hearing set for July 11th. Everybody's handicapping what's it going to mean for the presidential race. We're going to talk with KSL at Night's Taylor Morgan coming up. Stay with us at KSL News Radio. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Up to a 30% upfront bonus and 12% per year guaranteed growth for retirement. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and these are the highest guarantees with annuities I have seen in my life. When interest rates are this high, there are silver linings, and annuity guarantees are one of them. Up to a 30% bonus upfront for retirement income. On $100,000, that's up to $42,000 guaranteed in the first year. And it's because of the economy and its high interest rates. Don't let anyone, especially another financial advisor, tell you it's not true. Up to 30% upfront just for opening an account and up to 12% per year guaranteed income growth. Don't miss out. This won't last forever. If you have an old 401k, get up to 30% upfront and 12% guaranteed growth for income today.
Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
One of the things with running is I want to enjoy the run, but I never made it very far because the arches in my feet just killed me. So when I got to the end of my rope and I said I have to do something to get rid of the pain, and a couple people recommended the Good Feet store to me. I loved how I could go in and get a free personalized arch support fitting. They put that time, that work, that effort into helping you find the right arch supports. And you can walk around this store with these in your shoes and try them out before you purchase them. So after I got my arch supports, the arches on my feet stopped hurting and the pain instantly, literally instantly went away. So if you have pain, go. Find a Good Feet store and go. There is an answer. Find the simple solution that will get rid of your pain. I'm Rondi, and that's my Good Feet story.
See how Good Feet arch supports work for you before you buy with a free fitting and test walk at the Good Feet store.
The Good Feet store. Call 1-800-NEW-FEET or visit goodfeet.com.
You need to meet my aunt. Her name is Rochelle Morris, and she's running for Salt Lake County Council. She's super smart, and she really cares about people. She wants Salt Lake County to be a great place for kids. That means safe parks, safe streets, good rec centers, and making sure taxes go down instead of up. Go to voterochellemorris.com to learn more.
Thanks, Zoe and Tilly. I'm Rochelle Morris, and I'm running to make Salt Lake County work better for all of us. With my background in managing money in the private sector, I'm committed to cutting waste, holding the county accountable, and maximizing and protecting your tax dollars for you. Together, we can ensure Salt Lake County is a great place to live for many years to come. I'm Rochelle Morris, and I approve this message. Learn more at voterochellemorris.com.
That's voterochellemorris.com.
Paid for by Rochelle Morris for Salt Lake County Council.
Good afternoon, KSL News Time, 3:45. The three things you need to know this hour. First,
Chad Daybell has been found guilty on all 8 counts, including the murder of Tylee Ryan, JJ Vallow, and Tammy Daybell. I'm KSL News Radio's Claire Scott.
Second, former President Trump has been found guilty in New York on all 34 counts at his hush money trial. More from ABC News in just a moment. Third, our biggest traffic trouble spot.
I'm looking at a live shot of our only freeway crash. This is in as you're traveling on I-15 southbound between Weber and Davis counties. This is in Sunset. You're going to see a vehicle over to the left shoulder and one over to the right. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
73 today, turns to 80 tomorrow, near 90 by Saturday. I'm Matt Johnson.
Meantime, it's room temperature 72 degrees at the KSL Commons Spirit Health Studios now. Our top national stories.
This is a special report from ABC News. Trump found guilty. I'm Michelle Franzen. Guilty on all counts. The jury in the historic criminal trial of Donald Trump convicting the former president of falsifying business records after 2 days of deliberations. ABC's Aaron Katersky is at the courthouse.
An incredible verdict on this day in May, late May. The former president of the United States convicted as charged. 34 counts of falsifying business records. And as the crowd outside this courthouse found out, a big cheer went up from opponents of the former president.
The jury convinced by the evidence, both documents and testimony showing Trump reimbursed former fixer Michael Cohen for payments to Stormy Daniels to hide an alleged affair ahead of the 2016 election, along with the scheme to keep salacious stories from being published. Trump calling the trial and verdicts rigged, claiming he's innocent. Sentencing is set for July 11th. This is ABC News.
And now the in-depth on KSL. More about the verdict against former President Trump. KSL at Night co-host and political consultant Taylor Morgan is joining us live. So what's your flash reaction?
Well, Jeff, I'm not surprised, frankly, by the conviction in this case. I am, if anything, perhaps a little bit surprised that the jury did convict him on all 34 counts. If you had to ask me to really make a prediction a few days ago, I would have guessed that the jury would have found Donald Trump guilty on most of the charges, but probably not all. So to be convicted on all 34 counts, I think that is really significant legally. But when it comes to the politics of this decision and how it will impact the upcoming election, Jeff, according to a brand new poll that was just released today, this is an NPR PBS NewsHour national poll, it's clear that this conviction will really have no impact on whether or not voters support Donald Trump, are more or less likely to support Donald Trump in the upcoming presidential election. Listen, at this point, we all know who Donald Trump is. We know how he conducts his business. And I really don't think this conviction has a political impact on Trump other than perhaps stoking the fire among his base of support who have called these kind of allegations and these kind of trials witch hunts from the very beginning.
Well, funny you mentioned stirring up the base because Mike Lee just posted on X from his personal account, what they're doing to him is wrong, very wrong. Spread the word. And then there's a graphic that says Trump never surrender. Rush in and support now. So the fundraising is already underway.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Jeff. Unfortunately, with all of these charges, with these trials, I think what we are seeing, at least in political terms, we are seeing that we are fighting the fire of Donald Trump with nothing but more oxygen. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be pursuing justice. However, Donald Trump is a master of this game. And we really, with all of the press coverage, with all of these headlines, we are only seeing all of this play into more and more political support for Donald Trump. Of course, Jeff, we can't ignore the legal repercussions here. We know that because these charges, these convictions were handled in a state court, if Donald Trump were to become president, again, he could not pardon himself from these convictions. So how that plays out legally is another question. That's not my wheelhouse, and I'll leave it to Greg Skordas and others to answer that question.
Okay, one thing that former President Trump said today is true, that the real verdict will come on Election Day. Thanks a lot, political consultant Taylor Morgan, also a co-host on KSL at Night. We appreciate it. 3:50, time to get you home. Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
We're starting to see delays fill in westbound on the 21st South Freeway between I-15 and the West Belt. Southbound I-15, the slowdowns are in place and scattered at times between 4500 South and SR 92 Temp Highway. If you continue southbound I-15 in Utah County, it's getting busy and a little slow, Pleasant Grove and Linden. Also, some heavy and slow traffic setting in on I-215 South Belt. This is eastbound between Redwood Road and the I-15 junction. Steve?
Look at the good speeds right now. Northbound 15 from downtown into Davis County. Got delays typical through the construction there from Clearfield up to Roy. Got a crash on southbound 15 at about 1900 North in Sunset with vehicles on both the left and right shoulders. Got a crash, that's all gone now. Had a crash by Syracuse High School, which is cleared now in Salt Lake City, southbound Foothill Drive. A little busy there from Sunnyside Avenue out to 17 South. Need a perfect event venue? There's a place. This is the Place Heritage Park. Ideal for weddings, events, featuring 11 venues, beautiful grounds, affordability for any celebration. Call or visit thisistheplace.org. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL 7-day forecast has quite the warming trend into the weekend. 73 today, mostly sunny skies. Tomorrow, sunny, 80. Back up to 88 by Saturday, partly cloudy, and a little bit breezy Saturday afternoon. Sunday, partly cloudy, 83. Back to the mid-80s with partly cloudy skies on Monday. Tuesday's got a mix of sun and clouds, 82. 85 by Wednesday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Matt Johnson.
72 degrees outside the courthouse in Boise. The grandfather of J.J. and Tylee is speaking after the Chad Daybell verdict at 2:30 p.m.
A 7-year-old autistic child. For what? What did they accomplish? Nothing. What did they do? They destroyed families.
This is Larry Woodcock, the grandfather.
Tammy. What did they do? They destroyed a mind that was developing minds, the wonderful minds of children. She loved what she was doing. It's obviously she loved her family. For what? And I'm not going to even put up the 3 words that the prosecution put on the screens, because it's an insult to all of them. I don't even want to say them. But what Chad and Lori can't take from us is our memories. They can't take that. They can't destroy it. They can't erase it. Our memories are what we have. That's what we have left, our memories. Our pictures will fade somewhat. Our memories will fade a little bit. But I think through it all, we will all retain the wonderful memories of what we had and what we lost. I'm happy it's over. And it's 99.9% over. There's one stage left. And I will say this, whatever verdict, whatever sentence the court and the jurors decide on, I will absolutely live with it. I want to thank the jurors. I hope they get help if they need it. They've heard and they've seen things that they can't unhear and they can't unsee.
Larry Woodcock, the grandfather of J.J. Vallow, live on KSL News Radio on the courthouse steps in Boise. He's wearing a denim shirt, sunglasses that hid his eyes, but you could hear in his voice how he feels about Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. The sentencing phase of the Daybell trial begins in the morning. KSL News Radio will be there. And meantime, we understand that Alvin Bragg, the DA in New York who convicted Donald Trump on all 34 counts, will be holding a news conference at 4:30 p.m. We're going to carry that live, so stay with us at KSL. We'll be right back.
With big tech coming after our kids,
the inflow of illegal drugs coming to our state.
For Attorney General, we need someone we can trust to do the right thing for the right reason.
That's Derek Brown.
Derek fought to protect kids on social media.
He'll defend the Second Amendment.
Stand up to Biden when he tries to take our lands.
Derek Brown will fight to secure the border.
And that's the kind of leadership we really need.
We trust Derek Brown for Attorney General.
I'm supporting Derek Brown.
Paid for by Derek Brown for Attorney General.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
We're watching Utah's Money, brought to you by Utah First Credit Union. If you're wondering whether the Trump verdict had any impact on the Dow, it did not. The verdict came after the market closed. The Dow was down 330 points. The S&P was down 31. The NASDAQ down 183.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Before you hit the road, hit the KSL preset.
Going to work and back home?
Or running errands around town.
We tell you which roads will slow you down.
And how to avoid them.
With traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, KSL is a welcome backseat driver.
I'm Ricky Meese.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth.
We have you covered.
On KSL News Radio.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel neglected or unloved? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Traffic and weather together were brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a new accident. It's on the exit ramp from westbound I-80 at 5600 West, and it's blocking a right lane of travel. Slow down southbound I-15 from South Salt Lake to the point of the mountain. Also heavy and slow westbound on the 201, I-15 over to the West Belt. Steve?
Northbound 15 filling in now at 6 North as you leave downtown into Davis County. Got delays in Clearfield up to Roy. Plus delays due to a crash on the southbound side of I-15 at 1900 North in Sunset. Vehicles on both the left and right sides of the road. Delays at 31st Street in Ogden. And southbound 215's West Side Belt getting busy now from 700 North down to the I-80 Rams. Get ready for memorable summer evenings with the Utah Symphony July 5th through August 9th in Park City. Tickets on sale now at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s. We're headed down to 53 degrees overnight. Tomorrow, a little bit warmer. We're going to reach 78 on Friday. Saturday, the warmest day of the week. We're looking for a high of 87. Sunday, nice as well, 83.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Busy afternoon. It's 4 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Caplan, 72 degrees. KSL's top story is national news. Donald Trump has become the first former president to be convicted of felonies and is now also the first to promise an appeal.
We will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over.
We have new details and live analysis coming up. Let's begin with Maria Chaleos live at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, a New York jury finding Trump guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records, all part of a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through hush money payments to an adult film actress. Cheers erupted outside the courthouse after the guilty verdicts were read. After the conviction, the former president saying once again that he has done nothing wrong.
And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win.
Trump will be sentenced on July 11th, 4 days before the Republican National Convention. Former president saying that the real verdict will be determined on Election Day. ABC legal analyst Royal Oak says prison time, while possible, is unlikely.
This is his first offense. This is a unique situation involving President Trump. It's a non-violent crime. And yet you never know. When a jury says guilty to 34 felonies, it's possible that some jail time could be involved.
The former president faces penalties ranging from a fine to 4 years in prison on each count. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
Following the guilty verdict at the Trump trial, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson posted on her personal X account this afternoon nothing about the former president or the conviction. She only said she's praying for the safety of those jurors in New York and their families. Reactions are coming into the verdict out of New York from all over the country and from within Utah. Joining me live now, former Utah GOP Chairman Derek Brown, who is also running for Utah Attorney General. Thanks for joining us. Derek, what do you make of today's verdict?
Well, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. I mean, one of the things that I think is most interesting about this is that we have, and as someone who's currently running for AG, I'm highly sensitive to this. We have an attorney general in New York who literally campaigned on going after a particular individual and appears to, at least today, have made good on that promise. And so, from that perspective, the problem was this a legal exercise or a political exercise? And the problem is when the AG makes that a campaign promise, it undermines the legal system. And so I think that's a lot of the angst about what's going on today is the fact that I think there's a heavy degree of suspicion that I think people have based on that issue.
He is a convicted felon now. 34 times the word guilty was heard in that New York courtroom. And a lot of people say, regardless of the politics, did he commit the crimes that he was accused of committing? And the answer from the jury was yes. Does that factor into your assessment of this?
It has to factor in, but I think it is critical to look at it in the fuller context. And when you have an attorney general who has done what happened here, I mean, literally when she campaigned, she said he was an illegitimate president. She used the word embarrassment and con man, and I think carnival barker was another phrase she used. And so when that person then says, all right, now that I'm elected, I'm going after this person, I think it does cast a pall of sorts over what should be a purely legal exercise. And so, and as you can imagine, President Trump immediately, started raising money off of this. And in fact, my understanding is his donation site just crashed a few minutes ago, Jeff, because of the traffic.
I'm not sure. I literally don't know the answer to this question. Have you endorsed Donald Trump for president?
No, I have talked about the fact that when he does the things that when he supports conservative causes, we support him. I will always do that. And I think the Republican Party should support him. And when there are things he doesn't do, the things he does that aren't necessarily in alliance with conservative principles, same thing. But I think the Republican Party will need to get behind him because unless anything changes dramatically, he will be the nominee for the Republican Party this fall.
Derek, there is a distinct possibility he could end up in a jail cell in July. There could be appeals that push it off, but it is possible. Do you think that would hurt the former president's chances in November?
Oh, I would think it would, but we're also in brand new, uncharted territory. I mean, this is the first time we have a former president who has had these kind of issues and this kind of a conviction. And so, I mean, one of the things that we just need to be aware of is that we are truly in uncharted waters. And so when we're in those kind of situations, Jeff, I mean, an attorney, someone like myself who's been practicing law for so many years, I'm just very sensitive to the fact that we want to maintain the legitimacy and the feeling that our legal system is not there for lawfare. It's not there to go after political enemies. It's got to exist to provide justice and adhere to the rule of law. And so that is my biggest concern about what has happened today, separate and apart from the actual verdict itself.
Derek Brown is a former Utah GOP chairman. He is running as a Republican for Utah Attorney General. Thanks a lot, Derek. KSL News Time 4:06. First look traffic now. Ricky Meese, how's the rush?
We do have a new accident. It's on I-15 in Salt Lake County. This crash is going to be southbound near 5300 South in Murray, but it's already been moved out of traffic. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's been a busy afternoon. We also have the Chad Daybell verdict. Details to follow. Stay right here.
A slow network is no network for business. That's why more choose Comcast Business. And now we're introducing Ultimate Speed for Business, our fastest plans yet. We're up to 12 times faster than Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. And existing customers could even get up to triple the speeds at no additional cost. All from the company with 99.9% network reliability and advanced cybersecurity. It's Ultimate Speed from Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Don't miss out on our fastest speed plans yet. Get started with internet and security for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year contract. Plus, ask how to get up to an $800 prepaid card with a qualifying internet package. Don't wait. Call 1-800-501-6000 or go to ComcastBusiness.com to switch today. In 62324, restrictions apply. New customers only with 150 megabits per second internet and security edge. EcoBill and autopay required. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Compares Comcast Business 1.25 gig to 100 megabits per second of Verizon 5G Business, AT&T Wireless Broadband, and T-Mobile for Business. Up to 3 times download for existing essential and standard internet customers.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you have a drain that's clogged or backed up, after you've tried the plungers and products, the next step usually involves some kind of drain snake or cabling equipment. You see, sometimes the blockage is far enough down the line that you need special equipment that most homeowners just don't have. That's where the Drains Department at Any Hour Services can help. A drain snake can clear most blockages and get the water flowing again, and clearing blocked drains is what our Drains Department does day in and day out. So if you're a homeowner with a drain line that's clogged or backed up and you'd like one of our drain technicians to come and snake the line for you, it's only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
KSL News Time 4:08. Again, we're following the reaction to the Trump verdict in New York, guilty on 34 counts. Meantime, an hour before that, Chad Daybell was found guilty on all charges at his trial, including multiple counts of murder. He was convicted of killing his first wife, Tammy Daybell, as well as his second wife's 2 youngest children, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow. Outside the courthouse in Boise this afternoon, there were strong opinions about the verdict. Meridian, Idaho resident Trista Hale has been in the courtroom nearly every day and says this is a huge relief.
I'm so happy. I'm so relieved. Breath of fresh air.
What happens next is the penalty phase of the trial. It was a huge surprise. It was expected to come 60 days from now, but the judge decided to start it up an hour after the verdict was read. They'll be back in business tomorrow morning. The jury will be in the courtroom to hear evidence and decide whether Chad Daybell should be put to death. KSL News Time 4:09. First look, traffic and weather together. We're brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. And here's Ricky Meese.
A crash blocking a right lane of traffic on the off-ramp from westbound I-80 at 5600 West. And crews are at the scene, but this may take a little bit as part of a tractor trailer up against the barrier. Delays southbound I-15 from 33rd South to Bluffdale, northbound I-15. A little heavy and slow in spots between 2100 South and downtown. Mark?
Don't have any wrecks right now on I-15 in Utah County. We are starting to get a little rush hour thick after 5th East American Fork, running down to Geneva Road. Worst of those delays right after Pleasant Grove Boulevard. Out west, I do not see any unusual delays on the Big Three running through West Valley, Kearns area, Bangerter 5600 West, or Mountain View Corridor. Steve.
Northbound 15 busy between downtown Salt Lake and North Salt Lake this afternoon. Sunny drive, though, after that up into Davis, Weber, and Box Elder counties. Delays, though, waiting for you on the southbound side of I-15, really packed in between 31st Street and Ogden and Sunset. Southbound 215's west side belt busy from 700 north down to I-80. And southbound Foothill Drive got delays showing up now from Sunnyside Avenue out to 17 South. Replenish Landscape provides the finest compost and landscape products for flower and vegetable gardens. Start your season right with Replenish. Visit replenishcompost.com. Replenish, it's good stuff. Steve Carlson at the KSL Traffic Center.
How about a high of 73, mostly sunny skies by this afternoon. Overnight, 50 degrees, clear skies. And for tomorrow, 80, sunshine. We then take it to 88 for your Saturday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Matt Johnson.
A gorgeous 72 degrees in Salt Lake City. ABC News legal analyst Royal Oakes has been following the Trump trial with us throughout over the past 5 or 6 weeks. He's going to be joining us live with reaction and a look at what's next. Coming up, stay with us. We're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that things have been. Oh.
It's a mystery where Old Spice finds its amazing scents like Himalayan sea salt, but I'm thrilled they have because no other body wash exfoliates and moisturizes 24/7 like Old Spice Gentleman's Himalayan Sea Salt Body Wash. Now, if only there was a mountain range separating the Indian subcontinent from the Tibetan plateau where I could hide my Old Spice and keep my family from stealing it, my impossibly smooth skin will finally be safe.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-330-2929. That's 800-330-2929. 800-330-2929.
Norwegian Cruise Line's Memorial Day sale is back. Book today and get 70% off second guest on vacations to incredible destinations like Europe, Alaska, and Hawaii. Wake up in a new destination nearly every day and enjoy free unlimited open bar, specialty dining, and more. Visit ncl.com, call your travel advisor, or 1-888-NCL-CRUISE. This offer ends May 31st. Norwegian Cruise Line. Ships registry the Bahamas and USA. Restrictions apply.
The rest of my life gonna start today.
Hey, Benjamin, we've got a surprise for you.
What?
You have a brother. A $100 bill just like you.
Hey, I'm Ben.
What?
We just got him for joining America First Credit Union and opening a new checking account.
And you're going to live together at America First.
What? This is nice.
For a limited time, new members get a $100 cash bonus when they open a checking account or $50 when they open a youth checking account. So head to AmericaFirst.com and get your money working today. Membership eligibility, terms, and conditions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Spring is a great time to elevate the look of your home and landscape by adding beautiful flowers to the yard and patio. And pros and hobbyists alike know that the best flowers are grown by Olson's Greenhouse, right here in the mountain valleys of Utah. This is Brian with Olson's Greenhouse, and my family has been growing flowers with love and care for over 80 years. That's 4 generations of a local, family-run Utah business. So whether you're looking to add a pop of color to the back patio or a beautiful flower bed to the front landscape, Flowers from Olson's Greenhouse are the perfect finishing touch to make your yard a joy to relax in. Stop by ogg.com or find us on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens, where you'll find inspiring photos to get you going on your flower gardening journey. You can also find a local retailer carrying plants from Olson's Greenhouse. That's ogg.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens, where you can dream big, dream bold, and dream in color with beautiful plants and flowers from Olson's Greenhouse.
KSL News Time 4:15. The three things you need to know this hour. First,
Donald Trump becomes the first former president to be convicted of felony charges. I'm KSL News Radio's Maria Shaleo.
Second, we just heard a few minutes ago from J.J. Vallo's grandpa following the Chad Daybell conviction. Larry Woodcock says he's happy that everything is 99% over. Daybell's sentencing hearing begins in the morning. Third, our biggest traffic trouble spot.
Delays on I-15 in Davis and Weber counties, and northbound traffic starts at SR 193 700 South Clearfield and continues through Roy. Southbound I-15 delays go from Ogden down to Sunset. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Mostly sunny skies with temperatures down just a smidge today, but get ready for warmer weather. I'm Kevin Eubank.
72 degrees at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Now, our top national stories.
From ABC News. I'm Daria Albinger. Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. A New York jury finding the nation's 45th president guilty on all charges in his hush money trial. ABC's Aaron Katersky outside the courthouse.
An incredible verdict on this day in May, late May. The former president of the United States convicted as charged. 34 counts of falsifying business records. And as the crowd outside this courthouse found out, a big cheer went up from opponents of the former president.
The former president speaking outside the courtroom.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
Two senior advisors to the former president say they aren't surprised by the verdict. ABC's chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
Will those voters who have been solidly for him now reconsider whether or not they still want to vote for Donald Trump to be president of the United States again, now that he is a convicted felon?
Two U.S. officials tell ABC News that President Biden's given Ukraine the go-ahead to use American weapons to strike inside Russia, but only for the purpose of defending Kharkiv. An Idaho jury has convicted Chad Daybell of murder in the death of his wife and his then-girlfriend, Lori Vallow's two youngest children. You're listening to ABC News.
And now the KSL In-Depth. We continue discussing the Trump verdict. Joining us live, ABC News legal analyst Royal Oakes, who has been explaining this trial and what's going on for the past 6 weeks. So, first of all, were you surprised?
Well, I was surprised at the speed of it, Jeff. Yeah, I thought that because a couple of the jurors said positive things about Trump during the jury selection process, it might take a while to pull them over to the guilty side, assuming 9 or 10 were in favor of convicting. But, boy, they got it done quickly. It'll be fascinating, Jeff, to see whether they speak. Sometimes jurors are happy to go on network TV shows and you get first-class tickets to New York and so on. Other times they all agree, let's not talk. I think the key to the verdict was that you had to show that there was a falsification of records in New York, and the fact it said legal expenses on the array line of the checks that Donald Trump signed, 11 of them, that could support the idea that he falsified documents. And then the second crime, the jury instruction just was so clear. It said, look, if you make a contribution over $2,700 to an election to influence the election, well, that's a crime. And that was the hook that the jury needed, because let's face it, I think most people would believe that although one purpose of paying off Stormy Daniels would be to avoid an awkward dinner with Melania, another big purpose was to win the election in a couple of weeks. So that probably was the rationale of the jury.
The attention now turns to sentencing, which takes place on July 11th. So what do you think? If this was any other convict, what would he be sentenced to?
Probably no jail time, because nonviolent history, first offense. But in this situation, the judge may feel some pressure to say, you got to do some time behind bars because no man is above the law. I'll be seen as being soft on you, although scheduling the sentencing 4 days before the Republican nominating convention doesn't sound like he's being soft on Donald Trump. But I think most people think it's unlikely that he'll see time behind bars. But, if he did, there was a question about Secret Service and so on. There are plenty of empty correctional facilities in New York where he could basically have his own private prison. So it shouldn't be a security issue if that's the way the judge goes.
I'm not going to ask you to handicap the politics, but I will ask you this. Were you the judge in this case? Would you want to be sitting there in front of that courtroom deciding on what the sentence is going to be in this case?
No, I mean, it's just figuratively, you put a target on your back. I mean, obviously, it's so incredibly difficult to deal with somebody as controversial as Donald Trump. But this judge, he knew the job was dangerous when he took it, and he's got one more big decision to make. One question is whether Trump will be able to get an expedited appeal before the election. Very unlikely, but I think he'll make a pitch and he'll say, the Democrat DAs have been saying the American public needs to know if I'm a convicted felon. Well, now they need to know if I can reverse this conviction before November.
Interesting. Thanks so much. ABC News legal analyst Royal Oakes, who's been following this so closely throughout. We should mention the New York DA. Alvin Bragg is going to be holding a news conference or make a statement at 4:30. We'll carry that live here on KSL News Radio. Now, your traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st. At all Sinclair locations, here's Ricky Meese.
Delays continue southbound I-15 from South Salt Lake to Bluffdale, northbound I-15. A little busy as you're trying to get to the Bangerter Highway exit in Draper. And then again from 33rd South to the 6th South exit. The crash has been cleared at the exit ramp from westbound I-80 at 5600 west, but delays are setting in westbound on the 201 from 5600 west to Magna. Mark?
Slowdowns out west on Mountain View between SR 201 and 3500 south, and Bangerter not solid but slow getting into the rush hour mode between California Avenue and Kearns and I-15 in Utah County. No wrecks, but southbound volume anywhere now from Lehigh Main Street down to Geneva Road. Steve.
Salt Lake PD clearing up a crash right now, 7 south, 9th west in the downtown area. Northbound 15 busy between downtown and North Salt Lake, and in Davis County, Clearfield up to Roy. Got delays on the southbound side as well between Ogden and Sunset. Northbound Legacy filling in just a bit thick there by the Bountiful Landfill. And southbound Foothill Drive, slowdowns from Sunnyside out to 17 South. With IFA Spring and Summer Lawn Food, you'll grow healthy turf that stays green all summer long. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Your 7-day forecast brought to you by Performance Automotive Bountiful. Kevin Eubank is here. A little bit of San Diego weather.
It's pretty nice out there. Temperatures today in the low 70s. We're below normal for this time of the year, but it feels so nice. Tonight, mostly clear and 53. Another day like San Diego, 78 and sunny tomorrow. Then it warms up. 87 on Saturday. 80s continue Sunday. And then our first 90-degree day of the year, it comes on Monday, and they might get another one during the week. So, Jeff, some warm weather just around the corner.
72 degrees. Thanks a lot, Kevin. KSL News Time 4:23.
It's been a rough winter for sure, but visitors are flocking to Box Elder County. Our feathered visitors, that is. Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge is busy hosting swans to swallows, geese to grebes. The spring migration is in full swing, and all that's missing is you. Box Elder County really is for the birds. Just a short 60 minutes north of Salt Lake, Box Elder County is the perfect place to make memories and celebrate spring, along with spending time with our feathered friends. You'll experience amazing restaurants and unique shopping. Come take a soak at Crystal Hot Springs, home to the highest mineral content of any natural hot springs in the world. Let the winter melt away as you relax and rejuvenate. Take in a theater performance at one of the live theaters or visit one of the fine museums. Visitors really are chirping all about Box Elder County. Check out visitboxeldercounty.com and see why Box Elder County is for the birds. That's boxeldercounty.com.
My name is J.R. Bird. As mayor of Roosevelt, I increased transparency, led the charge to pass term limits, and kept taxes low. As your congressman, I will leverage my experience in the energy sector to champion energy independence and dominance. I'm determined to defend the unborn, secure our borders, uphold our Second Amendment rights, and bring the same level of transparency that we've upheld locally. I hope to earn your support.
Paid for by Bird for Congress.
Advertising used to be simple. Your options were radio, TV, newspaper, and let's not forget the yellow pages. Now it seems like a tidal wave of options. podcast, cable TV, streaming, OTT, CTV, audio networks, smart speakers. On top of that, you need digital marketing for your website along with SEM, SEO, display, video, YouTube, email, and all the social media platforms. Look, you're the expert in your business. Wouldn't it be nice to have an expert to market you? We are Bonneville Salt Lake, the local marketing and media company you know and trust. We reach customers across all digital and social platforms and have the reach of traditional advertising available as well. We find your customer anytime, any place, anywhere on any device here in Utah or anywhere in the world. We work to optimize your results with our in-house local team of experts, providing you with qualified leads, not just impressions. Contact Stephanie Palmer at KSL for a free consultation, including a complete digital audit with no obligation or cost to you. Email spalmer@ksl.com. That's spalmer@ksl.com.
We're watching Utah's Money, brought to you by Utah First Credit Union. It looked like the economy was going gangbusters, but the Commerce Department has revised the numbers. As they do, they now say the U.S. economy grew at a slower pace in the first quarter than first reported. GDP grew at a rate of 1.3% the first 3 months of the year. Fewer people are making late payments on their loans. The Wall Street Journal reports more and more people fell behind as they spent their way through their pandemic pillows. Now a good sign, more people are catching up on their payments. On Wall Street, there was no reaction to the Donald Trump verdict. The market was already closed for the day. The Dow down 330 points, the S&P down 31, the NASDAQ losing 183.
Are you stressing about your IRS tax problems? Have you received notices from the IRS threatening to garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, or seize your property? You need an ally. Allies Tax Relief has tax attorneys and enrolled agents that are ready to fight for you. They have saved millions for taxpayers just like you. Allies Tax Relief can help put a stop to IRS collections and, most importantly, negotiate your tax debt. Here's Brenda, a happy client of Allies Tax Relief.
I owed the IRS around $57,000, and they're about to start garnishing my paychecks. I heard a commercial on the radio about Allies Tax Relief, so I thought I'd give them a call. After a day, they were able to at least stop the garnishments, and after a few months of negotiations, I walked away owing the IRS only $301.
If you owe the IRS, call Allies Tax Relief right now for your free consultation. Call 800-230-5174. 800-230-5174. That's 800-230-5174.
The movie show is at Advanced Window Products tomorrow from 10 to 1. Save up to $2,500 on 10 windows or more from Advanced Window Products during the movie show.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. Listen, we're fiduciaries. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. Now, imagine how that would be if you could actually retire 3 to 5 years sooner than your plan was. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan, taking into consideration any rental properties that you have, any pension income that you have, your Social Security. Listen, we put that all together for you in writing. It will allow us to build your income based on inflation. You know, inflation has been rapidly rising. You and I both need a plan that whatever we start out our income at, in 5 or 10 years, we're going to need 40% more income. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Join your friends who rely on KSL each morning for the fastest routes to work and school.
I am listening for the traffic.
I'll always know if somebody's going to be late to work.
That's often what's on when I'm driving.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s.
On KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
The usual delays are waiting for you southbound I-15 in Salt Lake County, going from about 3900 south to 146 south. Northbound I-15 bogged down from the point up to Bangerter Highway, and again from 3500 south to the 6 south exit. Westbound on the 201, a little busy and slow approaching the West Belt, but most of the delays go from 5600 west into Magna. Mark?
Slowdowns out west on Mountain View between SR 201 and 3500 south. Bangerter not solid, but filling in anywhere between California Ave and Kearns. Southbound I-15 Utah County, Lehigh Main Street to Geneva Road, and then northbound starting to back up about 8th north as well. Steve?
And we have a slow ride on northbound 15 waiting for you from downtown up to North Salt Lake. Delays for Davis County drivers, Clearfield up to Roy. And a slow ride on southbound 15 as well, rolling between 24th Street. Those delays are actually building now from 24th Street in Ogden down into Sunset. Northbound 215's westbound also slow from the eastbound I-80 transition ramp heading north. Experience For You banking today at your local Zions Bank branch or visit zionsbank.com/4u to learn more. A division of Zions Bank Corporation, N.A., member FDIC. Steve Carlson at the KSL Traffic Center.
It's been a nice day with temperatures down just a little bit. We've been in the low 70s, below normal for this time of year. We'll get back to normal on Friday, 78 and sunshine, and then above normal on Saturday. 87 and mostly sunny, partly cloudy and 83 on Sunday before hitting our first 90-degree day of the year next week. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubank.
You're listening to Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News
on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM
and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, 4:30 at KSL. Jeff Caplan here. 70 degrees in Salt Lake City. A reminder that we're waiting for a news conference from DA Alvin Bragg in New York City, who was responsible for the prosecution of Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 counts in New York this afternoon. Meantime, our top story, guilty on all charges at the trial of Chad Daybell. He was convicted of conspiracy, murder, and fraud related to the deaths of his first wife and two of his children with his second wife, Lori Vallow. KSL News Radio's Adam Small was inside the courtroom today as the verdict was read. He joins us live now from Boise. Adam?
Jeff, you could hear a pin drop in that courtroom about 25 minutes even before the judge entered the room and the verdict was read. The family of J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, Tammy Daybell, all emotional, tears flowing as those guilty verdicts, all of those charges of guilty verdicts read in open court. This case now stretching over 4 years, and it's affected so many people. We've heard from family members today. They're just so many people just feeling like glad that it's over. What happens now is we're waiting for tomorrow morning where the penalty phase of this capital case will begin. The jury will be brought back in. They're still being sequestered tonight. We rock it back in tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning for prosecution and defense to bring in new witnesses. We could potentially see some new evidence as they try to prove to the jury that there were aggravating factors in these crimes that Chad has been convicted of committing. And they will decide whether or not he will end up on Idaho's death row. Outside the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, live, Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
And Adam will be there for the sentencing hearing tomorrow morning up in Boise. KSL News Time 4:32. Outside the courtroom this afternoon, J.J. Vallow's grandpa, Larry Woodcock, reacted to the guilty verdicts.
I'm happy it's over, and it's 99.9% over. There's one stage left. And I will say this, whatever verdict, whatever sentence the court and the jurors decide on, I will absolutely live with it.
Larry Woodcock thanked the jurors for their work and apologized for the things they saw during the trial. You can find a complete timeline of the Daybell case, as well as video from today's proceedings and all the latest developments at our website, kslnewsradio.com. Meantime, Donald Trump has been found guilty at his historic hush money trial. Maria Chaleos is live at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, Donald Trump has become the first former president to be convicted of felony crimes. A New York jury finding him guilty of all 34 counts of falsifying business records to illegally influence the 2016 election through hush money payments to an adult film actress. ABC's legal analyst Royal Oakes was surprised by the jury's unanimous verdicts.
The amazing thing, of course, is that everybody seemed to think that, nobody can agree on Donald Trump. You couldn't get 12 people to agree on anything about him, and yet this jury, in less than 2 days, was able to unanimously come to the conclusion.
Mr. Trump reacting outside the courtroom following his conviction.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
Out on the streets, cheers erupted outside the Manhattan courthouse. Bob Adams, a Trump opponent, was among those outside when the verdict was read.
I think it's a terrific mark. It separates the United States from dictatorships and authoritarian governments where a president is above the law. This is a man who is a threat to to the electoral process in this country.
Trump will be sentenced on July 11th, 4 days before the Republican National Convention. He faces penalties ranging from a fine to 4 years in prison on each count. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Shilaos, KSL News Radio.
Whatever this does to Trump politically, it's been a gold mine for his fundraising, or at least it would have been. His servers crashed. So many people were trying to get onto his fundraising site. Meantime, Utah Senator Mike Lee had some choice words following the verdict. He posted on his personal X account that he doesn't respect the verdict and other people should not as well. Congressman Burgess Owens wrote in a post on X, "The American people know this crooked case was never about the rule of law, but a political witch hunt perpetrated against the Democrats' top political opponent, President Trump." Our coverage will continue once again. We're waiting for the New York DA, Alvin Bragg, to speak to the media, a victory lap of sorts. We'll carry that live here on KSL News Radio. Meantime, here at home, drawings were released today showing what the new ballpark will look like in South Jordan, the new home for the Salt Lake Bees. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson with the story.
The new renderings of Daybreak Field, they look impressive with various levels of club seats. There's even some party decks along the first and third baselines. The stadium overall will have 6,500 fixed seats. Then there's a grass berm behind the right field fence for picnics and families. Overall capacity will be at 8,000 fans. The stadium is under construction. It's scheduled to open in time for the 2025 season.
You can read about the stadium and see the drawings at KSLNewsRadio.com. It's 4:36. We have first look traffic. Listen up. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a new accident, and this is on the northbound side of I-15. Prior to 2100 South, it's over to the left shoulder. Also, scanners calling out a crash 5600 West at 70th South. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're waiting on the DA in New York. The news continues. Stay with us at KSL News Radio. It's 4:36.
Looks like we're finally going to make that turn to warmer temperatures with 80s in the forecast. And if for you that means that you're going to be doing more things in the outdoors, maybe you're a golfer, or if you just like to go out for a hike now and then, but you're afraid that those achy joints, knees, shoulders, hips, or maybe your back are going to keep you from doing the things you love, I've got great news for you. QC Kinetics has arrived in Utah, and we're talking about no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. They can help harness your own body's ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. So get out and play that game of golf. Take that hike, walk and run, and move again pain-free. They're offering free consultations right now, and you're going to find them in Mill Creek, in Provo, in Bountiful. They're offering free consultations, so stop putting it off. Take action now and live your best life again. Here's the number to call QC Kinetics, 385-766-1987. That's 385-766-1987. Call them today, 385-766-1987.
My name is Case Lawrence, and I'm running for Congress. My wife and I are the parents of 6 wonderful kids, and now we have 2 beautiful grandkids. We raised our kids right here in Utah and have always felt like Utah is the best place in America to have a family. More than anything, I'm running for Congress to make sure that doesn't change. I hope you'll join me. I'm Case Lawrence, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Case for Congress.
A fiduciary has the regulatory obligation to put your best interest first. Trajan Wealth is a financial fiduciary for your investments. With Trajan Wealth, the more you make, the more we make. Our interests are aligned. Most other financial advisors are brokers held to a lesser standard and are paid an upfront commission to sell you something. Call Trajan Wealth 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
KSL News Time 4:38. Some of the other stories we're following. There's talk of putting the street in front of the Delta Center underground.
If Third West between North Temple and First South was a tunnel, a promenade could be built on top. John Larson, Salt Lake City's transportation director, says the UDOT road is wide and intimidating.
It's a little bit stressful to cross a big wide street like that, whether you're 90 or 7 years old, to be able to just seamlessly cross just a pedestrian plaza.
There are many things to consider, utility issues, the tracks line and groundwater being most prominent. Larson says building a bridge might work and be less expensive, but poses other potential problems. The tunnel idea was recently presented to state lawmakers, but there have been no follow-up discussions. Tammy Kikuchi, KSL News Radio.
KSL News Time, 4:39. Just one person is charged after yesterday's stabbing in Harriman left a teenager dead, but police say 8 people were involved. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe joining us live with the latest details. Amy.
Jeff, police say this all started yesterday after a group went to the Valley High School graduation to confront a woman and her son. They say these groups have had at least 2 other confrontations in the past, but this was the first with weapons involved. A knife, pipe, and brass knuckles were recovered at the scene. 19-year-old Keith McClendon is the only person charged right now with aggravated assault, but Deputy Chief Cody Stromberg says they're still investigating.
We do expect additional charges to come out of this incident. Again, it will depend on what the physical evidence shows us once we get through the processing. In combination with our interviews and statements from the involved persons, we'll work with the prosecutors and put that together, but we do anticipate additional criminal charges.
Police haven't released the name of the 16-year-old who was killed yesterday. They say that's because he's a minor. Reporting live, Amy Kobabe, KSL News Radio.
KSL News Time, 4:40, a bit late. We apologize. Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
I-15 in Salt Lake County delays southbound from about 3900 south into Draper. Northbound I-15 heavy and slow coming around the point of the mountain up to Bangerter Highway, and again from Murray to 2100 south, where we have an accident over to the left, slowing westbound on the 201, approaching the West Belt, and again at 5600 west. Mark?
I'm not seeing any accidents in Utah County, but it is very heavy rush hour delays on the southbound side of the freeway between Lehigh Main Street down to Geneva Road, and the worst of the traffic coming up Orem 8th north towards 5th East American Fork. Now, out west, see anything too disturbing on Bangerter Highway, but the usual delays down around 9800 south and then through the work zones 134th south Riverton on down. Steve.
Well, no crashes, but busy on northbound 15 now between downtown Salt Lake and North Salt Lake. Got delays for Davis County drivers. Clearfield up to Roy through the construction. Delays on southbound 15 rolling between 24th Street and Ogden and Sunset. Northbound 215's Westside Belt Route slow from 9 South up to North Temple. And some delays on southbound Foothill from Sunnyside out to 21st South. Advanced Window Products, factory direct, affordable windows. Call today. They're on their way. Financing available. Save now, pay later. AdvancedWindows.com. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
A beautiful day with mostly sunny skies and temperatures a little cool. We've been down into the 70s. Overnight lows will be in the 50s. We'll see sunshine in 78 on Friday. 80s return on Saturday and Sunday. And then our first 90-degree day of the year in Salt Lake City on Monday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubank.
70 degrees in Salt Lake City. Busy afternoon. It's hard to keep up. Next, we're going to hear from the New York DA, Alvin Bragg. He'll talk to reporters after getting a guilty verdict against Donald Trump on all charges. Stay with us. They're telling us from New York that should happen in about 5 to 10 minutes. We're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com. Of course, we're live on the KSL News Radio app. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Tim Hughes back with my friends at Replenish Landscape Garden Products. Of course, that is Greg and Mike. And Greg, we talk a lot about Replenish compost for good reason. But your soil blends are something that really people need to look into.
Our topsoil compost blend or our Ute-Lite garden mix are both great products to grow directly in. The best landscapers in the valley come here to get that.
And if you're looking to do hardscape areas and get rid of some of those areas that you have to fertilize and grow and do all the rest too, Mike, you've got great bark products and rock products as well.
We do. We have a variety of different bark products and rock, different colors as well that you could choose from.
Will you deliver that stuff as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can deliver it in a dump truck or else in 1 cubic yard bags or even small bags.
It's springtime, and that means it's time to stop in to Replenish Compost at 4660 South, 200 West in Murray. Here's a number to call, 801-262-5142, or go to replenishcompost.com. You know it, Replenish is good stuff.
I'm Jason Walton, candidate for U.S. Senate. I'm recording from the Tucson sector of our southern border, and nobody's here. Our government should defend our territory. But President Biden, Mitch McConnell, and career politicians are funding war in other countries while the cartels are waging unchecked war here on American soil. I'm standing up to build the wall, end catch and release, and secure the border. Stand with me.
I'm Jason Walton. The cost of food, gas, and interest rates have all risen because career politicians are addicted to spending, causing the federal debt to go up and our money's value to go down. My opponents are all big spending career politicians. But I'll stop runaway inflation by passing a balanced budget amendment, forcing the government to spend only what we give them. I'm Jason Walton, a Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Friends of Jason Walton for Senate.
It's Dino Day at all Sinclair locations Saturday, June 1st. Fuel up, saving up to 30 cents per gallon on Sinclair's top-tier premium-grade fuel using Dino Pay. Come early and grab some Dino swag. Remember, Saturday, June 1st at all Sinclair locations.
Love the filler moments at a Sinclair gas station near you with Dino Care, our top-tier gasoline for a cleaner engine. Some sweet and salty snacks for the commute, and a big green Dino for the memories. Find a gas station near you at sinclairoil.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from a station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
KSL News Time 4:45. I spent enough time in New York to know what's going on. The DA, Alvin Bragg, is probably holding his news conference that was promised at 4:30 for when all the local TV news stations in New York City are done with their commercials. The later he can push this, remember, 2 hours later, he gets into prime time in New York City, where they elected him. The three things you need to know this hour. First,
a jury has found Chad Daybell guilty on all charges, including multiple counts of murder and conspiracy in the deaths of his first wife and his current wife's two youngest kids. In Boise, I'm KSL News Radio's Adam Small.
Second, only one person is facing charges after a 16-year-old was stabbed to death in Harriman yesterday. Police say there were 6 other people involved in the incident. And we're going to interrupt right now because the DA in New York City, Alvin Bragg, is just now stepping up to the microphone. This is live on KSL News Radio.
Good evening. First and foremost, I want to thank the jury for its service. Jurors perform a fundamental civic duty. Their service is literally the cornerstone of our judicial system. We should all be thankful for the careful attention that this jury paid to the evidence and the law and their time and commitment over these past several weeks. 12 everyday New Yorkers, and of course our alternates, heard testimony from 22 witnesses, including former and current employees of the defendant, media executives, book publishers, custodians of records, and others. They reviewed call logs, text messages, and emails. They heard recordings. They saw checks and invoices, bank statements, and calendar appointments. This type of white-collar prosecution is core to what we do at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. In the 1930s, District Attorney Thomas Dewey ushered in the era of the modern, independent professional prosecutor. For now nearly 90 years, dedicated professionals in this office have built upon that fine tradition. A major part of our practice during that nearly 90 years has been public integrity work, including cases involving jurists, local and state electeds, public servants, and others. I want to thank this phenomenal prosecution team, embodying the finest traditions of this office: professionalism, integrity, dedication, and service. They are model public servants, and I am proud and humbled to serve side by side with them. The 12 everyday jurors vowed to make a decision based on the evidence and the law, and the evidence and the law alone. Their deliberations led them to a unanimous conclusion beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Donald J. Trump, is guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree to conceal a scheme to corrupt the 2016 election. And while this defendant may be unlike any other in American history, we arrived at this trial and ultimately today at this verdict in the same manner as every other case that comes through the courtroom doors, by following the facts and the law and doing so without fear or favor. I want to conclude by expressing deep gratitude to the NYPD and the officers of the Office of Court Administration for securing the courthouse, all of our safety, making sure the courthouse and all of the other matters that are important in their own right continued seamlessly. They will continue to be and have always been incredible partners. Thank you.
The New York City DA, Alvin Bragg. Let's see if he takes questions.
Request a prison sentence. Donald Trump's multiple violations of the gag order that was in place should factor in that request at all.
The judge scheduled a sentencing for July 11th. We will speak in court in that time. He also set a motion schedule. We will speak in our court filings as we've done throughout this proceeding.
Donald Trump has repeatedly targeted you personally and members of your prosecution team. Do you have a response to the former president after this trial is concluded?
I do not.
In February, you decided not to bring a case against Donald Trump. You criticized that. You criticized when you indicted him in March 2023. You criticized when people really started to understand that case. How do you think of all that now, seeing the results of that? Can you kind of put that in context with your personal history?
I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's exactly what we did here. And what I feel is just gratitude to work alongside phenomenal public servants who do that each and every day in matters that you all write about and make the press, and in lots of matters that you don't. I did my job. We did our job. Many voices out there. The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
Could I ask Mr. Steinglass, many people said the prosecution was masterful and flawless. Just want to know how you feel at this moment. Sorry. I'll let you How do you feel?
Mr. Steinglass, I think some of you probably saw him speak for a little bit the other day. So he's done his job, as has this team. And he just told me, tell him how I feel. I think you said that. I will just say enormous gratitude. You know, our system, I talked about.
We're getting to the inside baseball part from DA Alvin Bragg. You heard him say that this case was pursued without fear or favor. Now, this is the district attorney who ran for office in New York promising that he'd go after Donald Trump. And now with the conviction, he probably regrets saying that during the campaign. That campaign plank has tarnished this Trump conviction for many Republicans. Evidence of that, the Trump fundraising server crashed shortly after the verdict, the guilty verdict. And the most recent NPR poll out this morning shows that a verdict, whichever way it went, probably wouldn't change many opinions ahead of the election. KSL News Time 4:53. We'll be back in just a moment.
You might not believe this, but 11 of Utah's 16 presidential disasters involved flooding. That's because heavy rain brings dangerous flash flooding to many areas not designed to handle a large amount of water in a short period of time. Fact is, 6 inches of fast-moving water can knock a person down, and 2 feet of fast-moving water can float a vehicle away. That's why Utah Flood Hazards asks you to prepare now to get flood insurance before it's too late to protect the life you've built. When you're aware of a flood watch, stay tuned to media for information and know before you go. If a flash flood should occur, move to high ground immediately. Remember, 11 of Utah's 16 presidential disasters involved flooding, so the cost of flood insurance is a drop in the bucket compared to the cost of flood damage. Check your coverage today and protect the life you've built with the right flood insurance. Visit floodsmart.gov and get details. Floodsmart.gov.
There are so many soda weight loss success stories, Tim, like your daughter.
She lost 42 pounds.
Like me, I lost 34 pounds. And this is Chuck, who has had even more success.
I let go of about 120 pounds in about 1 year. Mobility's back. There was times like putting on socks and shoes, you'd be a little winded bending down. You know, when people see me, they're just shocked. You know, they always ask you like, "What'd you do?" And I tell them, I came to soda. I did that. You know, I tell them about it. At the end of the day, it's accountability. These guys, I don't think I would have done it on my own if I didn't have their support.
I tried to do it on my own, Tim. I failed miserably. I just got frustrated because I thought I was eating right, and I just kept gaining weight.
And that nutritionist that is with you every step of the way is the difference maker. It's that accountability we talk about. And his example of being able to tie your shoes, it's the little things that'll change in your life. Find out how this great program can help you. Go to sodaweightloss.com. It is spelled SOTA, and it stands for State of the
Art.
Encounter an out-of-this-world lunar landscape at Craters of the Moon during its 100th birthday celebration beginning in May. There's nothing like it on Earth. Learn more at visitidaho.org.
We're watching Utah's Money, brought to you by Utah First Credit Union. Mortgage rates are back up over 7%. Freddie Mac says the average 30-year fixed is now at 7.03. That's about a quarter point higher than it was a year ago. Hungry? Well, if you have Amazon Prime, good news, you're going to get a free subscription to Grubhub Food Delivery. With today's announcement, Prime members will get free delivery on orders over $12. Wall Street today, there was no reaction from Wall Street to the Trump verdict because the market had already closed about an hour beforehand. The Dow today was down 330 points, the S&P off 31, the NASDAQ losing 183.
Imagine if you could track your credit score anytime without impacting your score. Or imagine if you could know before you apply for a loan how it might affect your credit score.
Well, you don't have to imagine it anymore because our friends at Utah Community Credit Union have done that. It's called the UCCU Credit Score Toolbox, and it's right on board their app.
You can take the building of your credit score into your own hands. All the things that you can do right there on the app, like, you can correct errors to your credit report right there and improve your credit score.
Well, they told us recently you can even simulate what will happen if you pay off a credit card or apply for a loan, how that might affect your credit score. I've never heard of anything like it.
Plus, you get a free monthly credit report that includes all the information that you'd find on your credit file.
The third tool in your credit arsenal is credit monitoring, and UCCU makes it happen. There's no new apps to download. The Credit Score Toolbox is right inside the UCCU mobile banking app.
Available now for free. UCCU, love where you bank.
UCCU, love where you bank.
In Utah, we don't make excuses. We work hard. We do what's right. We get it done. Washington, D.C. could learn a lesson from Utah and from Republican John Curtis. John Curtis is our first line of defense against Joe Biden's policies that have made life harder in Utah. In Congress, John's known as the get-it-done guy. He passed 15 bills that make us safer and stronger. John Curtis is reducing regulations so Utah small businesses can grow and you can afford your energy bills. And as always, he's fighting for American energy dominance as our champion for affordable, reliable, and clean energy. When Utah thrives, America thrives. John Curtis knows that, and in the U.S. Senate, he'll teach Washington how we do it in Utah. John Curtis, working hard and getting it done the Utah way. ClearPath Action Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. ClearPathActionFund.org.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
Join your friends who rely on KSL each morning for the fastest routes to work and school.
I am listening for the traffic. I'll always know if somebody's going to be late to work. That's often what's on when I'm driving.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s.
On KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
The crash we had northbound I-15 prior to 2100 South has cleared, but we have residual delays back to Murray. Southbound I-15 still jammed up. South Salt Lake to Bluffdale. Heavy and slow westbound on the 201, I-15 to the West Belt, and then just after Bangerter into Magna. Mark?
Crash reported northbound I-15 about 8th North Orem in Utah County. It's been heavy there. Southbound delays slow Lehigh Main Street towards Geneva Road. Now I'm seeing more northbound delays. SR 92 to Point of the Mountain. Steve.
Northbound 15 busy between 6 North and North Salt Lake for Davis County drivers. Slowdowns Clearfield up to Roy. Southbound I-15 also busy between Ogden and Sunset. And northbound 215's West Side Belt slow from California Avenue. UDOT construction alert starting Monday, planned for overnight and weekend lane closures on northbound 15 in Sandy as crews begin bridge work. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Traffic and weather together on the 9s. We're down to 50 degrees overnight for tomorrow. Sunshine. Your Friday high around 80, and then a little bit of summer sizzle for Saturday. We're reaching toward 87 degrees. Then Sunday, expect sunshine and 83 degrees.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
This is the 5 o'clock report, 20 minutes of uninterrupted news, commercial free. I'm Jeff Caplan, KSL's top story. President Trump has been found guilty on all counts at his hush money trial. Outside the courtroom, he immediately denied any wrongdoing.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
Maria Chaleos is live with details at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, the New York jury finding Trump guilty of all 34 counts of falsifying business records, all part of a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through hush money payments to an adult film actress. Just minutes ago, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg commending his team of prosecutors and the jury.
The 12 everyday jurors vowed to make a decision based on the evidence and the law, and the evidence and the law alone. Their deliberations led them to a unanimous conclusion beyond a reasonable doubt.
After his conviction, the former president saying once again he's done nothing wrong and vowing to fight the decision.
And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win.
Trump will be sentenced on July 11th, 4 days before the Republican National Convention. And the former president is saying the real verdict will be determined on that day, on Election Day. ABC legal analyst Royal Oak says prison time will be possible, but it's unlikely.
This is his first offense. This is a unique situation involving President Trump. It's a non-violent crime. And yet you never know. When a jury says guilty to 34 felonies, it's possible that some jail time could be involved.
The former president faces penalties ranging from a fine to 4 years in prison on each count. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
Shortly after the verdict, I asked KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas about the penalty for former President Trump's conviction.
These are felonies in the state of New York. My understanding is that each of them carry a penalty of up to 4 years. He's not going to do 4 years. He's probably not going to do 4 months, but these are felonies. There was a way that the jury could have found misdemeanors in this case, but the way the state charged it, there were felonies. The quick verdict meant it was probably going to be 34-0, either guilty or not guilty. So the verdict isn't necessarily a surprise, and the unanimity of the verdict isn't a surprise either. The fact that the jury came down all the way on every single count the same.
Greg Skordas, who says the judge could impose a sentence that's harsh to make an example out of the former president. We're hearing reaction from current and former members of Congress from Utah today. Former Congresswoman Enid Mickelson says she's not surprised by the conviction.
I think that the prosecution had done a pretty good job of laying out a case where you had to ask yourself, why were these payments being made to Cohen? Why were they being entered the way they were?
Congressman Burgess Owens, meantime, wrote in a post on X, the American people know this crooked case was never about the rule of law, but a political witch hunt. KSL News Time 5:03. Here at home, a 78-year-old man is in jail, 78 years old, charged with the kidnapping of a teenage girl in Salt Lake City. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe with details.
Police accuse Tavita Maunga of kidnapping a 16-year-old girl who was walking home from school in March and then taking her to a parking lot and sexually assaulting her. The girl was able to escape and run home, and police were able to piece together surveillance video to eventually find Maunga. He appeared in court for the first time today to have his 7 felony charges read out to him.
Police believe this man was also looking for other victims in Salt Lake City, and they're asking that you call them if you have a tip that might be about this case. Provo police say the driver of a pickup crashed into a house this morning. A man inside the home at 200 North, 9th East, was hurt and had to receive medical attention. The driver of the pickup had to be taken to the hospital. KSL News Time 5:04. We have a way to protect your phone from hackers this afternoon, and it's pretty simple. You ready? Shut off your phone once a week. That's it.
The simple task protects against zero-click exploits. That's malware that gets into your phone and collects your data. And it does it without clicking any random links or downloading files. It goes through messaging, calling, and social media apps. It can also get through public Wi-Fi networks. Shutting the phone completely off and turning it back on stops the data collection and requires the malware to try and weasel their way in again with a smaller chance of successfully getting through. It also allows the operating system to perform smoothly and as intended. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
And speaking of hackers, if you recently bought concert tickets or sporting event tickets from Ticketmaster, this might be important. Ticketmaster has been hacked. The cyber thieves stole information from 560 million Ticketmaster customers, including names, addresses, phone numbers, and partial credit cards. The group is holding all that information hostage, demanding a ransom of $500,000. Ticketmaster has not yet confirmed the hack. First look, traffic on the 5 o'clock report. Ricky Meese, what's going on?
We do have a new accident reported in Box Elder County, eastbound I-84 near Snowville, but is not expected to be cleared up for another 2 hours. Right now, delays linger on I-215's west belt, especially southbound from 2100 north to just past the I-80 junction. Bogged down getting into Utah County tonight on Redwood Road, where southbound delays start in Bluffdale and continue to 2100 North Lehigh. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL News Time 5:06. Chad Daybell was in court this afternoon, standing, hands folded in front of him, motionless, as a guilty verdict was read for all 8 counts against him. Also in the courtroom this afternoon, the news director of East Idaho News, Nate Eaton, who's joining us now live. Thanks for coming on. I know it's been a busy day, Nate. Tell us more about Chad Daybell's reaction to the verdict and what they were saying outside the courtroom afterward.
Well, he didn't have much of a reaction, to be honest with you. He sat stone-faced, as he has most of this trial. You mentioned his hands were folded. I did notice after the verdict came down, the judge took a break, and we all came back in the courtroom about an hour later, and Chad's eyes appeared red, as if he may have been crying afterwards. Outside the courtroom, cheers went up when the verdict was read. People were watching on their phones. A lot of excitement. This has been a trial that's lasted nearly 9 weeks and a case that's lasted over 4 years. Many people ready and anxious for this day.
There was quite a bit of shock after the verdict was read when the judge announced that we're going to take an hour, then we'll start the sentencing phase. Usually a judge would wait about 60 days, right?
Well, yeah, he would. However, in Idaho, in a capital murder case, if the defendant is found guilty, the jury then decides the sentence. And because they went for death penalty on this case, the jury will now decide whether Chad gets life in prison or death penalty. It's only one or the other, and so now a little mini trial will start first thing tomorrow, and witnesses will be called, some arguing that he should get death, some arguing that he should get life, and then this same jury will determine the sentence.
There will be character witnesses for this part of the trial, I presume?
Yes, and along with victims' families, they'll read their victim impact statements. They will talk about their loved ones that they lost. We know that Tammy Daybell from Springville, Utah, her father was in the courtroom today. He will make a statement. Her siblings, along with Larry and Kay Woodcock, the grandparents of J.J. Ballo. So there could be several witnesses called over the coming days.
This is a local story for you at East Idaho News. You've been following it closely throughout. Are you surprised at all by what happened in court today?
I don't think so. I think that Lori Vallow's verdict a year ago mirrored this one. I sat through 2 trials. The prosecution has put in a gazillion hours into this case. I'm not surprised much. And it was quite emotional in there. This has been life for the past 4 years, and here we have it, and now we wait for the second part of this case, which is life or death.
Nate, throughout this case, we appreciate you coming on the air with us at KSL News Radio. Nate Eaton, the news director at East Idaho News. J.J. Vallow's grandfather, Larry Woodcock, spoke to reporters outside the courtroom after the verdict was read this afternoon. He says he's happy this trial is almost over.
I want to thank the jurors. I hope they get help if they need it. They've heard and they've seen things that they can't unhear and they can't unsee.
Woodcock also expressed his gratitude to the judge and the prosecution. People gathered outside the courthouse in Boise say they're happy with the Chad Daybell guilty verdict. Katie Bellamy lives close to the courthouse. She says she feels for the families of the victims.
They've had to experience a tragedy, and then that tragedy's been dragged on for 5 years after the fact, trying to seek justice.
Multiple people who watched the proceedings shared similar sentiments. Tom Evans was a juror at the Lori Vallow trial last year. Today he told us at KSL what it's been like for the jurors at this trial.
I think they're ready for this to be over. I think they know they have some time to go. Their minds are probably pretty well made up. I think they're really trying to follow closely.
Evans says his mind was made up about halfway through the Lori Vallow trial. He says the prosecution's case was strong then. It was strong this past few weeks, but he notes that Chad Daybell's defense team did a good job. The judge, the lawyers, and the jury will all convene again tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. for sentencing arguments. We'll continue to bring you the very latest on KSL News Radio, online at kslnewsradio.com, and our own KSL News Radio reporter Adam Small will be in the courtroom in Boise tomorrow morning. KSL News Time 5:10. Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate on June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
Another new accident, this time in Murray. It's on the southbound side of I-15 prior to 4500 South. Looks like everybody is over to the right shoulder, or trying to get over to the right shoulder at least, and stay out of the lanes of travel. But we still have delays that go from 3900 South to 146 South on southbound I-15. Northbound I-15 jammed up from rounding the point of the mountain up to Bangerter Highway, and clearing in spots, but still busy as you go. Scattered spots of busy traffic from Murray to downtown. Westbound on the 201, a little bit of busy traffic approaching the West Belt, but the bigger delays start at 5600 West. Mark?
Wreck out west is causing some delays in the area. 5600 west, 70th south, both sides. Mountain View slowdowns. SR 201 to 3500 south again through daybreak. Bangerter, spots of usual delays in the usual places. Through West Valley Kearns down to 9800 south, then from 134 south Riverton through work zones, and then it's a mess in Utah County, basically both directions between Lehigh and Orem. Steve.
And northbound 15 busy from downtown Salt Lake, right around 6 north up to North Salt Lake, and in Davis County got work delays, road work in the road there to slow you down from Clearfield up to Roy. Southbound I-15 delays, Ogden to Sunset. Got a crash on eastbound I-84 near Snowville and not expected to be cleared up until about 7 o'clock tonight. Also slowdowns in northbound 215's West Side Belt from California Avenue, and same for the southbound side, bogging from 1700 north down to I-80. Need a perfect event venue? There's a place. This is the Place Heritage Park. Ideal for weddings, events, featuring 11 venues, beautiful grounds, affordability for any celebration. Call or visit thisistheplace.org. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
As we head through the 5 o'clock hour, we're looking at partly cloudy skies and temperatures in the low 70s. We'll stay there for 6, 7, and 8 o'clock. Upper 60s for 9 and mid 60s for 10. Ultimate lows will be in the low 50s under clearing skies. With your hourly forecast on the 5 o'clock report, I'm Kevin Eubank.
Right now in Salt Lake City, we're at 72 degrees. Sunset tonight at 8:52 p.m. KSL News Time 5:13. Our coverage of the Trump verdict continues. We've heard from the Biden campaign. In a statement that was sent to KSL, they say in New York today, we saw that no one is above the law. They say Trump poses a threat to our democracy. Former Governor Gary Herbert has endorsed Governor Spencer Cox for re-election this year.
His commitment to Utah and to our future is unmatched. In his first term, he passed record tax cuts while increasing teachers' salaries and funding for education. Now more than ever, we need a strong, principled, conservative leadership in this state. I trust Spencer Cox completely.
He chose him to be lieutenant governor. Herbert says he's known Governor Cox for 15 years. Flying Ubers, drones supporting first responders. They could be reality sooner than you think.
47G, the governor's office, and the Utah Inland Port Authority announced Project Alta, a gathering of minds to develop an advanced air mobility system for Utah. Their goal? Lead the country with both personal travel and upping package delivery. I asked Project Alta Executive Director Chris Metz if flying taxis will be a real thing.
It is that, where somebody is able to summon, if you will, an electronic takeoff and landing vehicle.
Governor Spencer Cox, who's already been laying groundwork through legislation, sees Utah leading the charge.
A new generation of pilots will be needed to support this new air mobility ecosystem.
Project Alta hopes to have many of these air travel innovations by the time the Olympics return. Eric Cabrera, KSL News Radio.
The cost of wait, you have kids? Well, listen to this. The cost of childcare is soaring at nearly twice the pace of overall inflation.
From the year 1990 until April of this year, the cost of daycare and preschool rose 263%, says tax firm KPMG. By comparison, inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index rose only 133% during that time. The report saying the child care crisis, which was simmering prior to the pandemic, has come to a boil. It's forcing many, says KPMG's chief economist, disproportionately women, to choose between caring for and providing for their families. Dave Packer, ABC News.
KSL News Time, 5:15. The three things you need to know this hour. First,
Chad Daybell has been found guilty on all 8 counts, including the murder of Tylee Ryan, JJ Vallow, and Tammy Daybell. I'm KSL News Radio's Claire Scott.
Second, former President Trump's been found guilty on all counts at the New York hush money trial. More from ABC News in just a moment. Third, our biggest traffic trouble spot.
Some unusual delays popping up westbound on I-80. This is going to be near Saltaire, about that vicinity, prior to the SR 202 junction. And then we also have slowdown southbound on the West Belt from about 2100 north through West Valley. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures in the low 70s today, but 80s are coming back. I'm Kevin Eubanks.
72 at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios now. Our top national stories
from ABC News. I'm Daria Albinger, guilty on all 34 counts against him, but former President Donald Trump insists he's innocent.
We will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over.
The former president after the guilty verdict in his New York criminal hush money trial. ABC's legal analyst, Royal Oakes.
The amazing thing, of course, is that everybody seemed to think that, nobody can agree on Donald Trump. You couldn't get 12 people to agree on anything about him. And yet this jury, in less than 2 days, was able to unanimously come to the conclusions.
Outside the courthouse, cheers from Trump opponents like Bob Adams.
I think it's a terrific mark. It separates the United States from dictatorships and authoritarian governments where president is above the law. This is a man who is a threat to the electoral process in this country.
Matthew Turner was among the Trump supporters who were there.
There's no crime here. It's just they're out to get Donald Trump.
Sentencing is scheduled for July 11th. A jury has convicted Chad Daybell of killing his wife and his then-girlfriend's 2 youngest children. The 2019 case spanned at least 4 states, and it included claims of apocalyptic prophecies, zombie children, and illicit affairs. The U.S. makes a major change when it comes to Ukraine.
In a major policy reversal, the Biden administration now says Ukraine can use U.S.-provided weapons to strike inside Russia near the area of Kharkiv. Just 2 days ago, National Security spokesman John Kirby told me the administration doesn't encourage or enable the use of U.S.-supplied weapons to strike inside Russia. President Biden's been facing pressure from Ukrainian President Zelensky, allies, and lawmakers on Capitol Hill to lift that restriction. The White House has said frequently its support for Ukraine has, quote, evolved appropriately to what's happening on the battlefield. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
In Michigan, a second case of bird flu, the 3rd case in the U.S. this year. You're listening to ABC News.
Time now for the KSL In-Depth.
Donald Trump found guilty. In-depth coverage on KSL News Radio.
Yes, He has been found guilty on all 34 counts in New York this afternoon. He said afterwards, the whole country is rigged. Joining me live, KSL at Night co-host Leah Murray. So what a great place to start. Is the whole country rigged?
No, I think no, right? I mean, first of all, at some point, the common denominator in all of these criminal charges is him and not all the different jurors and the DAs. So I don't think the whole country is rigged.
Okay, but one thing we are doing is handicapping this. What happens now to the polls? What happens with the presidential race if he's sentenced to jail on July 11th or even prison? How does that affect the Republican convention coming just a few days afterwards? There's the question of what it does to the election race. How do you see all of this?
I mean, the other question I would add to your list is he's now a convicted felon, which means he cannot vote in Florida. So a little bit I wonder, he's running from that state. He's a resident there, and he's not going to be allowed to vote there, which I think is just an interesting piece. But your question's really well taken. The sentencing is going to happen right a couple of days before the RNC. A little bit, I don't know, Jeff, I'm thinking Nikki Haley stayed in some of those primaries and was getting like 20 to 40%. And I just don't know if behind the scenes somewhere are some Republicans really thinking about this hard.
Wow, I see what you did just there. Can we go back to the Florida thing? I did not know. A convicted felon cannot vote in the state of Florida.
That is correct.
But he was convicted in New York. Does that matter?
No, he's a convicted felon, right? So the answer is he cannot vote for himself in Florida.
There was an NPR poll that was out this morning, obviously, before the verdict. It said this is not going to move the needle at all, whether the verdict was guilty or not guilty, either way.
Yeah, but I think it kind of depends. So I was looking at data from voters under 45, and that's a place where Biden is a little worried. Does that make sense? Because he did well with them 4 years ago, not doing so well now. And 20% of them said less likely to vote for Trump if he is guilty. So it might not move the metric writ large, but it might really matter in some subgroups.
Are you going to be on KSL at night this evening?
Yeah, and we're going to dive into the former president quite a bit.
I'm sure you'll have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
That's at 7 o'clock tonight, right after the news. Thanks a lot, Leah Murray. It's 5:20. Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
Looks like we have a new accident. They're now out of traffic. It's at the junction of westbound I-80 and Foothill Drive, and there is some backup left in the area. Southbound I-15 jammed up off and on from 1300 south all the way to Bluffdale, and northbound I-15 heavy and slow coming around the point from Lehigh up to Bangerter Highway and from South Salt Lake to downtown. Westbound on the 201 heavy and slow from I-15 to just past the West Belt and from 5600 west to Magna. Mark?
It's already a full house in Utah County on southbound I-15. Now, we've not had any major wrecks southbound, but it is very heavy. Prior to Lehigh Main Street, the struggle down to Geneva Road, and then northbound, maybe even slower now, coming up Center Street, Orem, and it's a struggle to 50th American Fork. Redwood Road is a big mess. Now, I see both directions, really, between north of Porter Rockwell and 2100 North Lehigh is a mess right now. Steve.
Southbound Foothill Drive busy as well from Sunnyside Avenue out to 21st South. You have delays on northbound 15 from downtown up to North Salt Lake. And in Davis County, Clearfield up to Roy. Southbound 15 tight, Ogden to Sunset. Got a crash on eastbound I-84 near Snowville. That's expected to be there for a little while. Probably not cleared until about 7 o'clock tonight. Slowdowns on northbound 215's West Belt from California Avenue. And the southbound side of 215 bogged down at 1700 north down to I-80. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking lot. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. That's GoPaveUtah.com. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL 7-day forecast starts off beautiful and temperatures pretty comfortable in the 70s. 78 and sunny on Friday. 80s return on Saturday and Sunday, and then our first 90-degree day of the year on Monday. Temperatures next week are going to go on a bit of a whiplash. 90s on Monday, 70s on Tuesday, back to the 90s by Thursday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubanks.
70 degrees, your 7-day forecast brought to you by Performance Automotive Bountiful. I just want to tell you about how this show began today. We prepared a show. Then at 2:30 this afternoon, we had the Chad Daybell verdict. Well, blow everything up. Then at about 10 minutes to 3, we got the word that the jury was ready to come back into the courtroom with the Trump verdict. And there's been a lot of dancing this afternoon. So I just want to take a quick moment and thank Alex Brown in the studio for the way he's handled the show, our producer Jessica Lowell, and our associate producer Claire Scott. Tip of the cap, guys.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Make-A-Wish Utah is on a mission to spread the life-changing power of hope to children battling critical illnesses, replacing fear with confidence, sadness with joy, and anxiety with optimism. President and CEO Daniel Dudley joins us with more.
Make-A-Wish was born fittingly because of the wish of a child. On April 29, 1980, 7-year-old Chris, who'd been diagnosed with leukemia, decided his wish was to be a police officer. Volunteers in his community made his wish a reality. And after witnessing the impact the wish had on Chris, a global movement was created. Since then, Make-A-Wish Utah has granted over 4,500 wishes for Utah children battling critical illnesses. Through the power of a wish, children can be anything they want, meet anyone they choose, or go anywhere they dream of. Research shows children who have wishes granted can build the physical and emotional strength they need to fight a critical illness. Of course, wishes do not come true by chance. Wishes happen because community members choose to make them possible. Learn how you can help at wish.org/Utah.
Whether you're a small donor or a large corporation, you have the power to make a wish come true. Visit the Make-A-Wish website to help them achieve their goal of reaching every eligible child in Utah. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Tim Hughes here, celebrating 30 fantastic years with Greg and Mike at Replenish Compost. And happy birthday, Greg. Why is Replenish Compost so enduring through all these years?
Well, the number one thing is it works as a great soil amendment or also as a top dressing. It was something that was developed 30 years ago by Connie Cannon and Peter Lassick.
And the nutrients in Replenish, Mike, really make a difference.
You'll really notice a difference in your flowers and vegetables and whatever you put it in, how well it does.
And it's so satisfying after a long winter and, things dry out and they don't look so good. You can instantly get beauty with that Replenish.
We have the 1 cubic yard bags, or we can deliver loose in our dump trucks.
Replenish for over 30 years, making Utah homes and gardens more beautiful, 1 yard at a time. You're going to find them at 4660 South, 200 West in Murray. Call them at 801-262-5142 or look them up online at replenishcompost.com. Replenish. It's good stuff.
We're watching Utah's Money at KSL, brought to you by Utah First Credit Union on Wall Street today. The Trump verdict had no impact on the markets. They were already closed when the verdict came down in New York. The Dow, before that, was down 330 points at 38,111. The S&P down 31, the NASDAQ losing 183 points.
In Utah, we don't make excuses. We work hard. We do what's right. We get it done. Washington, D.C. could learn a lesson from Utah and from Republican John Curtis. John Curtis is our first line of defense against Joe Biden's policies that have made life harder in Utah. In Congress, John's known as the get-it-done guy. He passed 15 bills that make us safer and stronger. John Curtis is reducing regulations so Utah small businesses can grow and you can afford your energy bills. And as always, he's fighting for American energy dominance as our champion for affordable, reliable, and clean energy. When Utah thrives, America thrives. John Curtis knows that, and in the U.S. Senate, he'll teach Washington how we do it in Utah. John Curtis, working hard and getting it done the Utah way. ClearPath Action Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. ClearPathActionFund.org.
There are so many soda weight loss success stories, Tim, like your daughter.
She lost 42 pounds.
Like me, I lost 34 pounds. And this is Chuck, who has had even more success.
I let go of about 120 pounds in about 1 year. Mobility's back. There was times like putting on socks and shoes, you'd be a little winded bending down. When people see me, they're just shocked. They always ask you, like, what'd you do? And I tell them, I came to soda, I did that. I tell them about it. At the end of the day, it's accountability. These guys, I don't think I would have done it on my own if I didn't have their support.
I tried to do it on my own, Tim. I failed miserably. I just got frustrated because I thought I was eating right, and I just kept gaining weight.
And that nutritionist that is with you every step of the way is the difference maker.
Yeah.
It's that accountability we talk about, and his example of being able to tie your shoes. It's the little things that'll change in your life. Find out how this great program can help you. Go to sodaweightloss.com. It is spelled SOTA, and it stands for State of the
Art.
Before you hit the road, Hit the KSL preset.
Going to work and back home?
Or running errands around town.
We tell you which roads will slow you down
and how to avoid them.
With traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, KSL is a welcome backseat driver.
I'm Ricky Meese.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth.
We have you covered
on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
Delays continue on southbound I-15 from downtown to 2100 South, and again from just before 4500 South Murray to through Draper. Northbound I-15 heavy and slow at the point up to Bangerter, and from South Salt Lake to downtown. The I-215's westbound really jammed up now, leaving Legacy all the way down through West Valley at about 3900 South. Mark?
Worst of the west side delays include Mountain View struggling SR 201 to 3500 South West Valley. Bangerter delays going 7800 South to 9800 South, and it has been an awful drive. I-15 without any wrecks in Utah County between Lehigh and Orem. Steve?
And no wrecks up north either. Northbound 15, though, busy from 6 north into North Salt Lake. Davis County delays Clearfield up to Roy. On the southbound side, got slowdowns from Ogden to Sunset. Slowdowns on 215's northbound west belt from California Avenue. And the southbound side really packed in from 2300 north down to I-80. For a limited time, new America First Credit Union members get $100 when opening a new checking account or $50 when opening a youth checking account. Head to americafirst.com and join today. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's been a nice day with temperatures down just a little bit. We've been in the low 70s, below normal for this time of year. We'll get back to normal on Friday, 78 and sunshine, and then above normal on Saturday, 87 and mostly sunny, partly cloudy and 83 on Sunday before hitting our first 90-degree day of the year next week. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubank.
You're listening to Jeff Caplan's Afternoon News
on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM
and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, 5:30 at KSL. Jeff Caplan here at 72 degrees. KSL's top story. A jury has found Chad Daybell guilty of killing his first wife and his current wife's 2 youngest kids. Now the jury has to decide whether he goes to death row and sacrifices his life. KSL News Radio's Adam Small was in the courtroom when the verdict was read. He's joining us live now from Boise. Adam.
Jeff, before the verdict was read, you could hear a pin drop while there was not an empty seat in the entire room. But after that, the rest was history.
Is Chad Guy Daybell not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan? Guilty.
That ruling was read 7 more times, including for the murders of J.J. Vallow and his first wife, Tammy Daybell. Larry and Kay Woodcock and other family members, police officers in attendance, and everyone else there. So many people began to cry, choke up, let out maybe a gasp of relief. Chad, the entire time, though, really did not show any emotion, as he didn't for so much of the trial, just kept his eyes forward on the judge. And like you said, now the jury will hear more witness testimony and potentially see new evidence as they decide whether or not Chad should be put to death. That first hearing begins tomorrow morning at 8:30. I will be in the courtroom bringing you the latest. Live in Boise, Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
We expected the judge would hold the death penalty part of the trial in about 60 days. But after the verdict was read, it was decided they're going to start on the sentencing tomorrow morning, as Adam mentioned. KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas says this is happening much sooner than he thought.
It's very surprising that they're going straight to the death penalty phase, because it's a separate trial altogether, and the state would have different witnesses for that. The defense would have different witnesses for that, and you would expect that the judge would give each side time to gear up, because nobody knew what the verdict was going to be, let alone go straight to sentencing.
Greg says he thinks the judge is sending a message that he wants this trial wrapped up fast. Well, a jury has found former President Trump guilty on all 34 counts. Maria Chaleos is live at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, Mr. Trump has been convicted of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in his hush money trial. After the guilty verdicts were read, the former president vowing to fight the conviction.
I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution.
The conviction marks the first time in history that a former U.S. president has been found guilty of criminal charges. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg says his office handled this case like they would any other. He thanked the jury for their deliberations.
Their deliberations led them to a unanimous conclusion, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant, Donald J. Trump, is guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records to conceal a scheme to corrupt the 2016 election.
Among the people reacting outside the Manhattan court tonight is Trump supporter Matthew Turner.
It just seems to me like the fix was in that they were out to get Trump, but I think he's going to get more popular with the American people.
Sentencing has been set for July 11th. Each of the 34 felony counts carry up to a 4-year prison sentence. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
We've been hearing all kinds of reaction this afternoon about the former president's conviction. Former Utah Congresswoman Enid Mickelson says this was more than just falsifying records.
So this isn't just about falsifying the business record. It was falsifying business records to be able to influence a campaign. And I think that the jury caught that.
Senator Mike Lee called Trump's conviction a sad day for America on his X account. There's been no reaction to this moment from President Biden. The Biden campaign has reacted, basically saying justice has been done. It's like the first crocus of spring. The first rabid bat of summer has been confirmed by Utah public health officials. Epidemiologist for the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, Karen Valcarzi, says if you see a bat or any wild animal, don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Don't destroy it. Don't hit it. Don't try to remove it from your home or wherever you are. You should really call your local animal control office.
Valcarzi says if you see a bat nearby, seal any cracks in your home, close your windows, and make sure your pets are inside. KSL News Time 5:35. We now know what the new Salt Lake Bees baseball stadium will look like. The story from South Jordan and KSL News Radio's Radendell Jepson.
The stadium called Daybreak Field is about good views and amenities. There's a bunch of box and club seats near home plate. There's some party decks along first and third baselines. And for people who prefer a picnic on the grass and maybe a chance to chase a home run ball, there's a berm just beyond the right field fence. The Miller Company says there will be shops and plenty of places to eat surrounding the park. Construction is underway with the first pitch scheduled to take place in spring 2025. You can read a lot more and see those pictures of the ballpark at KSLNewsRadio.com. Radel Jepson, KSL News Radio.
It's 5:35. We have first look traffic. Ricky Meese, how goes the rush?
We do have a new accident northbound I-15, not far from, well, it's actually across from the SR 92 ramp. That's something to watch for. And then we also have an accident westbound I-80, about 2300 east. Even though it's mostly out of traffic, it's still causing some backups. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Thanks, Ricky. An update on the stabbing in Harriman yesterday. Stay right here. It's on the way.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
I'm John Curtis. As a small businessman, I built gun ranges to help our law enforcement and our military. As mayor of Provo, I took aim at reducing waste, and we balanced our budget. In Congress, I've stood up to Biden and voted repeatedly against his reckless spending.
And when it comes to standing up to D.C. and protecting our land, John Curtis has done that too. He forced the federal government to transfer more land back to Utah than anyone in state history.
I'll never let D.C. bureaucrats or outsiders tell us how to manage our land.
And John Curtis is the only candidate China has threatened to arrest because John stands up to the communist aggression. And Curtis is fighting to secure our border and stop the cartel's deadly flow of drugs in our country.
I will always stand up for America and Utah. That's why I approve this message.
John Curtis, conservative Republican for U.S. Senate.
I'd be honored to have your support.
Paid for by John Curtis for Utah.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think.
All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
We're brought to you by Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air, anyhourservices.com. KSL News Time 5:38. A 19-year-old man is facing charges related to yesterday's stabbing in Harriman, but police say that more charges for more people are likely. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe live with the update. Amy?
Jeff, that stabbing happened after a fight between 8 people in Harriman. Police say a group went to the Valley High School graduation to confront 2 others. This wasn't the first time this same group of people have had a fight, but this was the first time with weapons. Deputy Chief Cody Stromberg says 2 people were taken to the hospital with more minor injuries.
One of the adult females sustained an injury to her hand. It's not a stab wound. It was a crushing injury as part of the fight. And then one of our juvenile males sustained a stab wound to the face.
Police are not releasing the name of the 16-year-old who died yesterday because of his age. Amy Kobabe, KSL News Radio.
Thanks, Amy. We're getting a better picture of what the Delta Center might look like. Brian Smith's company is envisioning a huge promenade that leads to the front entrance. The road out front is owned by UDOT, and spokesman John Gleason says the proposal to put the road underground was presented to state lawmakers who'd have to approve funding.
And it would cost in the hundreds of millions of dollars, but we're here to work through any concepts, and it's absolutely an interesting idea.
Third West would go underground past the Delta Center. The idea is just that right now, an idea. There are issues to consider: groundwater, utilities, the tracks line, but it would make the area safer for pedestrians and cyclists who find it stressful crossing a 6-lane road, and it would make Salt Lake a more walkable city. KSL News Time 5:39. So how about the drivers? We have traffic and weather together, brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
We've had an accident westbound I-80 about 2300 east. That's caused a little bit of backup. But if you are going to be traveling I-15 in Salt Lake County, you are in for a slow ride. Southbound, slowdowns from about 9th South to 2100 South. And again, pretty thick and heavy as you go from Murray, 4500 South through Draper. Northbound I-15, heavy and slow at the point up to Bangerter Highway. Westbound on the 201, delays off and on. And that's scattered from I-15 to 7200 West, and a slow ride southbound on the West Belt, 2100 North down to the 201 junction. Mark?
This looks minor, but a wreck northbound I-15 at SR 92 is not helping matters. It is very tight with delays up towards the point of the mountain on northbound I-15, and then a wreck southbound at 8th North. You've been pretty awful southbound coming down below 2100 North Lehigh, and then it looks like Redwood Road has been horrible in both directions between Bluffdale and 2100 North. Steve.
We have delays on northbound 15, bogged down from 21st South up to North Salt Lake, plus Davis County delays as well, Clearfield up to Roy. Plus stack-ups on southbound 15 between 31st Street and Ogden down into Sunset. Got delays on northbound Legacy this afternoon from 5th South in Bountiful heading into Centerville. Got Mr. Max Performance Missionary Package. Includes 1 performance suit, 4 and collar stretch shirts, 3 ties, 1 mission belt, 1 pair of Echo or Johnston & Murphy shoes, just $595. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures down just a smidge today. We've been in the 70s for highs overnight, mostly clear and 53. Sunny and 78 for the high on Friday. That's actually normal for this time of year, so right where we should be. Above normal on Saturday, mostly sunny and upper 80s, and then temperatures soar next week. We're actually going to be in the low 90s for the first time by Monday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubank.
72 degrees. Chad Daybell's sentencing hearing begins in the morning. KSL News Radio's Adam Small is already up in Boise, so listen to Tim and Amanda when you wake up tomorrow morning. They'll be streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com. Of course, we're always live on the KSL News Radio app. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station. You've been trying to hold off, but you think it's time. You might need a new roof. Best move you could make is to call the highest-rated roofing contractor in Utah. IWC Roofing has been working up there for 27 years. They offer the best warranty in the business, backed by Owens Corning. What's most amazing is they'll replace your entire roof in one day. Instead of Chuck with a truck showing up for a week of chaos and mayhem, you get professionals. IWC Roofing is in, they're out, and they power wash your driveway just to say thank you. They'll even send pictures from the roof so you know exactly what you're getting for your hard-earned money. Now, you think a highly skilled Owens Corning Platinum Certified contractor would charge more, but no. IWC offers a better price, and if you call now, they'll give you an extra $2,000 off your quote. $2,000 off. So call IWC Roofing for a free estimate, 801-232-5690, 232-5690, or visit IWCRoofingUtah.com.
I'm Jason Walton, candidate for U.S. Senate. I'm recording from the Tucson sector of our southern border, and nobody's here. Our government should defend our territory, but President Biden, Mitch McConnell, and career politicians are funding war in other countries while the cartels are waging unchecked war here on American soil. I'm standing up to build the wall, end catch and release, and secure the border. Stand with me.
I'm Jason Walton. The cost of food, gas, and interest rates have all risen because career politicians are addicted to spending, causing the federal debt to go up and our money's value to go down. My opponents are all big spending career politicians. But I'll stop runaway inflation by passing a balanced budget amendment, forcing the government to spend only what we give them. I'm Jason Walton, a Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Friends of Jason Walton for Senate.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Get the news.
Salt Lake City is looking to shake up the zoning of single-family homes.
And a deeper understanding of the news.
2 homes on what was 1 lot.
Feels like an afterthought, and I think it's going to feel crowded.
Tim and Amanda catch you up first thing in the morning. Then join Dave and Debbie and Boyd Matheson for conversation about the news middays. And Jeff Caplan has the latest developments on your drive home. For news and talk, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Thanks for listening. KSL News Time, 545. The 3 things you need to know this hour. First,
Donald Trump becomes the first former president to be convicted of felony charges. I'm KSL News Radio's Maria Chaleos.
Second, Ticketmaster has been hacked. The cyber thieves say they stole information from 560 million Ticketmaster customers. Third, our biggest traffic trouble spot.
2 crashes in Utah County, one on the southbound side at 8th North on the shoulder. And then we have the accident northbound to I-15 by SR 92 Temp Highway across from the ramp. It is over to the left, but causing backups through Lehigh. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures down just a smidge today, mostly sunny in the 70s, but get ready for the 90s. I'm Kevin Eubanks.
It's 70 degrees even at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios now. Our top national stories.
This is a special report from ABC News. Trump found guilty. I'm Daria Albinger. Donald Trump is now the first former U.S. president to be convicted of a crime.
We will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over.
A Manhattan jury finding him guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records. ABC's Michelle Franzen has more on the panel that made history.
The jury of 7 men and 5 women listened to testimony and poured over evidence for more than a month of the trial. Jurors included 2 native New Yorkers, along with 2 immigrants from Lebanon and Ireland. The man originally from Ireland was chosen as the jury foreman. He told the court he attended some college and got his news from the New York Times, Fox News, and MSNBC. 7 of the jurors had advanced degrees, including 2 lawyers, and it took the jury 2 days of deliberations to reach the decision in the historic and unprecedented case. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
This is ABC News.
And time for the KSL In-Depth, the other story we've been following closely all afternoon. Chad Daybell found guilty on all counts this afternoon. He's been convicted in the murder of his first wife, Tammy Daybell, and 2 children of his second wife, Lori Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and J.J. Vallow. Here's J.J.'s grandpa, Larry Woodcock, outside the courthouse this afternoon.
But what Chad and Lori can't take from us is our memories. They can't take that. They can't destroy it. They can't erase it. Our memories are what we have. That's what we have left, our memories. Our pictures will fade somewhat. Our memories will fade a little bit. But I think through it all, we will all retain the wonderful memories of what we had and what we lost. I'm happy it's over. And it's 99.9% over. There's one stage left. And I will say this, whatever verdict, whatever sentence the court and the jurors decide on, I will absolutely live with it. I want to thank the jurors. I hope they get help if they need it. They've heard and they've seen things that they can't unhear and they can't unsee.
That's Larry Woodcock, J.J. Vallo's grandfather, outside the courthouse. The penalty phase of the Daybell trial begins tomorrow morning at 8:30. Our reporter, KSL News Radio's Adam Small, will be there. It's 5:49. We have traffic and weather together, brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all St. Clair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
Southbound I-15. Delays linger as you go from Murray at 4500 south to just past Bangerter Highway. Northbound I-15 bogged down going from the point up to Bangerter Highway. And for those on the 201, it's still a slow ride westbound from I-15 almost to Bangerter, and again from Mountain View into Magna. We're also seeing some heavy delays westbound on 5400 south between I-215's West Belt and Bangerter. Mark?
You have no extra charge for this. Slowdowns northbound I-15 in Utah County between Orem and American Fork 5th East. Then more bonus coverage, more bonus slowdowns northbound between 2100 North Lehigh and Point of the Mountain. And then southbound's been pretty awful as well, even slower between 2100 North Lehigh and Geneva Road. Pretty worried about Redwood Road because basically between both directions prior to Porter Rockwell, 2100 North Lehigh has been steadily slow in both directions. Steve.
And if you're on northbound 15, you're going to be tapping the brakes in spots between 21st South up to North Salt Lake and in Davis County, Sunset to Roy. Southbound 15 completely loaded down with delays between 31st Street and Ogden down into Roy. Northbound Legacy also slow at 5th South and Bountiful into Centerville, and some leftover slowdowns on northbound 89 at South Weaver Drive. Elevate your home and yard with beautiful flowers for the landscape, porch, and patio from Olson's Greenhouse. For landscape inspiration, visit us on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL 7-day forecast is a bit of a wild roller coaster. Tonight, 53 mostly clear and beautiful, 78 and sunny. That's spot on normal for temperatures on Friday. We'll get back to the 80s and mostly sunny on Saturday and partly cloudy in 80s on Sunday. Then we're at 90 for the first time this year in Salt Lake on Monday. We rapidly cool Tuesday, Wednesday back to the 70s and the 80s. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubanks.
70 in Salt Lake City, your 7-day forecast brought to you by Performance Automotive Bountiful. We're going to check the markets in just a moment. KSL News Time, 5:52.
How many of you have been waiting months or even years to get a crown, but don't have $1,200 to $1,500 to get one? Only Crowns offers same-day crowns at a fraction of the cost of your dentist. Plus, you're in and out in under 90 minutes. Save your money and save your time with Only Crowns. They provide an unmatched lifetime warranty. No dental insurance? No problem. Don't let the price of a crown keep you from enjoying good dental health. Only Crowns is here, and there's nothing like it anywhere in Utah. Done fast, done right, just $6.99 per tooth. They'll offer a limited exam, all the x-rays needed, plus a full zirconia crown with a lifetime warranty and no hidden fees. No one else offers that, and it's yours with Only Crowns. Visit Only Crowns next to Shields and Sandy or online at onlycrowns.com and get details, including how to score a Stanley mug for the first 100 appointments, along with a chance to win an electric bike. No purchase necessary. Onlycrowns.com. That's onlycrowns.com.
Hey, my name is Chris Stewart. The question I have is, who can best represent us in Congress? And the answer to me is clearly Celeste. So in my life, I've been around some of the strongest leaders in the world. What is it that makes a good leader? Humility. The humility to listen, to actually consider what it is that they want, to try to help people. That's Celeste to her core. Celeste has shown up for me. She'll show up for you. She shows up for Utah.
Paid for by Celeste for Congress.
After 20 years of music in the mountains, concertgoers from all across our state and beyond have made some amazing memories at Utah Symphony's Deer Valley Music Festival, and we're inviting you to join us again this summer. Don't miss crowd favorites, patriotic pops, Disney in concert, Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture, and the music of John Williams. Pack your picnics, bring your family and friends, and get ready for memorable summer evenings with the Utah Symphony, July 5th through August 9th in Park City. Tickets are on sale now at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. The Utah Symphony's Deer Valley Music Festival showcases talented vocalists performing your favorite chart-topping songs with the full power of the symphony. You'll wish your recordings at home offered the same orchestration. Don't miss the music of Whitney Houston, the trailblazing music of Joni Mitchell, Carole King, and Carly Simon, Hamilton's Leslie Odom Jr., and Cody Fry, all with the Utah Symphony. July 5th through August 9th in Park City. Tickets are on sale now at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org.
Blast off for the birthday bash of the century at Craters of the Moon. There's nothing like it on Earth. Join the festivities beginning in May. Learn more at visitidaho.org.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
We're watching Utah's Money, brought to you by Utah First Credit Union. Looks like the economy was going gangbusters, but the Commerce Department has revised the numbers. As they do, they now say the U.S. economy grew at a slower pace than first reported in the first quarter. GDP grew at a rate of 1.3% the first 3 months of the year. Fewer people are making late payments on their loans. Wall Street Journal reporting more and more people fell behind as they spent through their pandemic money from the government. Now a good sign, more people are catching up with their payments. On Wall Street today, the Dow is down 330 points, closing at 38,111. The S&P was down 31. The NASDAQ down 183. None of this a reaction to the Trump verdict when it came down. The markets were already closed for the day.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Scott Hammond. If you've applied for a job using one of the many computer-based systems, artificial intelligence is likely being used to screen your application. In the UK, after being furloughed for COVID, some employees were asked to reapply for jobs that they'd already successfully done. One woman was rejected because, according to the computer, she had poor body language during the interview. The algorithms used in some artificial intelligence systems attempt to objectify what is inherently subjective. For the sake of efficiency, they make decisions that impact a company and the lives of applicants. But we don't yet know the cost. We know that a biased hiring manager can do damage, but so can a computer algorithm. Learn more about ethical hiring practices in an MBA from Utah State University. Go to utahstatemba.com. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
Discover the best of senior living at Trio Orem and Trio South Ogden. Today's older adults aren't wrapping up their life's journey, they're seeking a new one. And Trio Independent Living is here to help them do just that. With a smart, modern, and connected lifestyle, residents cultivate relationships and maximize independence through signature programs like Prime Fit Wellness that bring living well and well-being to life. Welcome to the new age of senior living. Schedule your visit at leisurecare.com/Utah today.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain.
and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
Still some slowdowns waiting for you southbound I-15, Murray through Draper, northbound I-15 at the point up to Bangerter Highway, westbound on the 201, heavy and slow from I-15 off and on to Magna, and slowing southbound on I-215's west belt, 1700 north down to the 201 junction. Mark?
Well, it's been very rough on I-15. Still a full house, struggling 2100 North Lehigh down to about, I'm going to say, looks like Geneva Road. Then it's been even worse. Northbound I-15 between Center Street, headed to 5th East American Fork. Steve.
And delays on northbound 15 between 21st South and North Salt Lake. Got a crash in the mix reported at 13 South on the left shoulder. When adventure calls, a new Murdoch Hyundai is the answer. Lease a new 2024 Tucson for only $365 a month or 3.99% for 5 years. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're heading down to 50 overnight for tomorrow. Sunshine, your Friday high 80 degrees. We get a little bit of summer sizzle for Saturday. We're reaching toward 87.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good evening, 6 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Caplan. 70 degrees. KSL's top story is national news. Donald Trump has become the first former president convicted of felony crimes and now is also the first to promise he'll appeal.
We will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over.
We have new details and live analysis coming up. Let's begin with Maria Chaleos at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, a New York jury finding Trump guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records, all part of a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through hush money payments to an adult film actress. Cheers erupted outside the courthouse after the guilty verdicts were read. After his conviction, the former president saying once again that he's done nothing wrong.
And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win.
Trump will be sentenced on July 11th, 4 days before the Republican National Convention. Former president saying the real verdict will be determined on Election Day. ABC's legal analyst Royal Oak says prison time, while possible, is unlikely.
This is his first offense. This is a unique situation involving President Trump. It's a non-violent crime. And yet you never know. When a jury says guilty to 34 felonies, it's possible that some jail time could be involved.
The former president faces penalties ranging from a fine to 4 years in prison on each count. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
Following the Trump verdict, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson posted on her personal X account this afternoon that she is praying for the safety of those jurors and their families. She did not comment on the actual verdict against former President Trump. Reactions have been flooding in all afternoon to today's verdict out of New York. I spoke with former Utah GOP Chair Derek Brown, who's running for Utah Attorney General as a Republican. I asked him his reaction to all of this.
We have an Attorney General in New York who literally campaigned on going after a particular individual and appears to, at least today, have made good on that promise. And so, you know, from that perspective, The problem was this a legal exercise or a political exercise? And the problem is when the AG makes that a campaign promise, it undermines the legal system. And so I think that's a lot of the angst about what's going on today is the fact that I think there's a heavy degree of suspicion that I think people have based on that issue.
Derek Brown, who says he thinks this could hurt Trump's chances in November, but he says we're in uncharted territory here. KSL News Time 6:03. Cybersecurity experts say you should shut your phone completely off at least once a week. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla explains why.
It protects against zero-click malware. Zero-click malware doesn't go through phishing emails or a random link. They weasel their way into the phone without any participation by going through apps, missed calls, or Wi-Fi networks. The National Security Agency says powering the phone completely off and back on at least once a week stops all running apps and resets your phone settings to their known state.
Experts say it's not foolproof, but it can prevent a bigger problem. You buy a concert or sports ticket recently? Well, a group of cyber criminals claim they've hacked one of the largest sites for ticket sales, Ticketmaster. The hackers say they stole the information of 560 million customers. The group says the stolen data includes names, addresses, phone numbers, partial credit cards. The group is holding all that info hostage. They're demanding a ransom of $500,000. Ticketmaster has not yet spoken about this hack, but the Department of Homeland Affairs has confirmed that they're working with the organization. Summoning a flying Uber could soon be closer to reality than you might think.
Project Alta was announced earlier today at the Hexcel headquarters in West Valley. Leaders from aerospace, the governor's office, and UDOT all shared the same sentiment that Utah will lead the country in creating an advanced air mobility system. Executive Director Chris Metz said they'll roll out their plans in phases, like building out passenger air traffic one area at a time.
To where they can bring passengers to those locations.
Metz also spoke about advancing package delivery to the level of freight and supporting first responders with delivering equipment and supplies, all with clean and quiet running machines. They say Utahns should see these innovations unfold over the next 10 years. Eric Cabrera, KSL News Radio.
KSL News Time 6:05. Provo police say the driver of a pickup crashed into a house this morning. A man inside the home at 200 North, 9th East was hurt and had to receive medical attention. Meantime, the driver of the pickup had to be taken to the hospital. KSL News Time 6:05. First look traffic, Ricky Meese, tail end of the rush.
Couple of new crashes. One is northbound I-15, about 1300 south. It's been moved out of traffic. And an accident westbound I-80 near State Street also moved to the shoulder. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Thanks, Ricky. KSL News Time 6:06.
With big tech coming after our kids,
the inflow of illegal drugs coming to our state.
For Attorney General, we need someone we can trust to do the right thing for the right reason.
That's Derek Brown.
Derek fought to protect kids on social media.
He'll defend the Second Amendment.
Stand up to Biden when he tries to take our lands.
Derek Brown will fight to secure the border.
And that's the kind of leadership we really need.
We trust Derek Brown for Attorney General.
I'm supporting Derek Brown.
Paid for by Derek Brown for Attorney General.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. 4 locations: Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, Performance Toyota, and Ford Truck Country. All dedicated to delivering you the best auto experience anywhere. Looking for your first car? Maybe you want rugged power or the stylish ride of your dreams. New or used. See it all at PerformanceBountiful.com. PerformanceBountiful.com.
If your water heater's over 10 to 15 years old, congratulations. You've beat the average. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I love hearing stories of people having water heaters that are really old and they're still doing their job. Unfortunately, most of us won't be that lucky. And when water heaters fail, it's usually in spectacularly inconvenient fashion. Whether it's an unexpected cold shower when we're already running late for work, or worse yet, coming home to a flooded basement, it's never fun. If you'd like to look into replacing your water heater before it fails, Any Hour Services is having a sale for any homeowners listening. Whether you're looking for a new tanked water heater or you want to see what upgrading to a tankless would cost, the plumbers at Any Hour Services can show you what options are available. And right now, you can save $400 on a tanked water heater or $1,200 on a tankless. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services today and schedule your free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
Listen to KSL for news to get exactly what you want.
Stories about what's going to affect me.
Traffic. If I want to know now, I'll go to KSL Radio.
Hear the important stories, the stories that affect you.
On KSL News Radio.
KSL News Time 6:08. Chad Daybell has been found guilty on all charges in his trial in Idaho today, including multiple counts of murder. He was convicted of killing his first wife, Tammy Daybell, as well as his second wife's two youngest children, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow. Outside the courthouse in Boise, there were strong opinions about today's verdict. Meridian, Idaho resident Trista Hale has been in the courtroom nearly every day. She says it's a huge relief.
I'm so happy. I'm so relieved. Breath of fresh air.
What happens next is the penalty phase of the trial to decide whether Chad Daybell will be put to death. Court has wrapped up for the day, but the jury is back at it tomorrow for the penalty phase. Starting at 8:30 a.m., our own Adam Small will be in the courtroom tomorrow morning. KSL News Time 6:09. A teenager is dead after a crash on Mountain View Corridor this morning. Riverton Police spokesperson Josh Lee says they were driving just after midnight when it happened.
A minor was traveling westbound on 13400 South and was struck by another driver traveling southbound on Mountain View Corridor. That minor has now been pronounced deceased.
Lee says the South Valley crash team is investigating what happened. A 78-year-old man will have his first court appearance after police say that he kidnapped a teenage girl and sexually assaulted her.
This case started back in March when a 16-year-old girl was reported missing. She eventually returned home, saying she was walking home from school when a man pulled up alongside her saying something. As she got closer to the truck, she opened the door and the man pulled her inside. That man is accused of driving to a parking lot and sexually assaulting the girl before she was able to escape. Police have arrested Tavita Maunga after tracking down surveillance video, and police are asking for the public's help. They say Maunga was also going around and looking to entice other teen girls in Salt Lake City. He appeared in court for the first time today. Amy Kobabe, KSL News Radio.
KSL News Time 6:10. We're a bit late. I apologize for that. Traffic and weather together. We're brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate on June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
Delays linger southbound I-15 between 53rd South Murray all the way to 146 South northbound I-15 jammed up coming around the point of the mountain up to Bangor Highway. We're seeing improvement on the 201. It's still a little busy westbound from Redwood to Bangor and from Mountain View into Magna, and 5400 South still packed in and slow both directions between Bangor and the West Belt. Mark?
Well, it does look like it's a big mess in Utah County right now on I-15. KSL travel time, 46 minutes, southbound freeway between the South Interchange, Salt Lake County, down to Provo via southbound I-15. It's been a mess between Lehigh and Orem. Then northbound hasn't been much better, struggling 8th south in Orem, up to 5th East American Fork, and then 2100 North Lehigh up to Point of the Mountain. And then Redwood Road's been troublesome as well this afternoon, both sides between north of Porter Rockwell and 2100 North Steve.
Well, we're back to good speeds on northbound 15, leaving downtown Salt Lake up to Brigham City. Leftover slowdowns, though, on the southbound side of 15 between Sunset and Roy. And we have delays on northbound Legacy at 5th South in Bonneville into Centerville. Steve Carlson at the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures down just a smidge today. We've been in the 70s for highs overnight, mostly clear and 53, sunny and 78 for the high on Friday. That's actually normal for this time of year, so right where we should be. Above normal on Saturday, mostly sunny and upper 80s, and then temperatures soar next week. We're actually going to be in the low 90s for the first time by Monday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubank.
70 degrees in Salt Lake City. We're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're also live on the KSL News Radio app. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station. I haven't seen the guys from Advanced Window Products in like a month because Nate Orchard and Jake Weber, they're busy. This is when everybody wants windows. Their factory in Salt Lake is cranking out frames. Their installers are snazzing up houses with beautiful, stylish, energy-efficient windows. Highest quality windows at the best price. And Utahns, I know you love to buy local. That's why you want to jump in now and call Advanced Window Products, because they'll give you $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life, just like they've been doing for 38 years with factory direct pricing. The energy companies offer rebates, and yes, they offer 0% financing. It's busy season. Take advantage right now. $2,500 off. Call Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or just go to AdvancedWindowsUSA.com.
It's a mystery where Old Spice finds its amazing scents like Himalayan sea salt, but I'm thrilled they have, because no other body wash exfoliates and moisturizes 24/7 like Old Spice Gentleman's Himalayan sea salt body wash. Now, if only there was a mountain range separating the Indian subcontinent from the Tibetan plateau where I could hide my Old Spice and keep my family from stealing it, my impossibly smooth skin will finally be safe.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-838-6161. That's 800-838-6161. 800-838-6161.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go: shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms: irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit NoTimeToWait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
KSL News Time 6:15. The 3 things you need to know this hour. First,
a jury has found Chad Daybell guilty on all charges, including multiple counts of murder and conspiracy in the deaths of his first wife and his current wife's 2 youngest kids. In Boise, I'm KSL News Radio's Adam Small.
Second, only one person is facing charge as of now after a 16-year-old was stabbed to death in Harriman yesterday. Police say there were 6 other people involved in the incident. Third, our biggest traffic trouble spot.
We do have an accident in Utah County, northbound Redwood Road at Camp Williams. It has been moved to the shoulder, but it's part of the slowing that we have both directions through the area. And a crash called out North Temple about 1950 West. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures down just a smidge today, mostly sunny in the 70s, but get ready for the 90s. I'm Kevin Eubank.
70 degrees at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Now, our top national stories
from ABC News. I'm Daria Albinger. Former President Trump is now running for re-election as a convicted felon. A New York jury today found him guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records related to a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. The former president says the case is far from over.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. And the jury It's a rigged trial, a disgrace.
More on the historic verdict from ABC's Stephen Portnoy.
This was certainly a moment in American legal history, a moment in American political history, a moment in the life of the 45th president who hopes to become the 47th president, and there will be reaction across the country. But right now, Donald Trump stands convicted.
Mr. Trump will be sentenced on July 11th. That's just days before the Republican National Convention. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry says the latest Israeli attacks have killed at least a dozen people in Rafah.
The IDF is pressing on in Rafah and elsewhere in Gaza, saying airstrikes hit over 50 terror targets over the past day. Now, 3 Israeli soldiers were killed and 3 others seriously injured on Wednesday in what they described as a booby-trapped building in Rafah.
ABC's Britt Clennett in Tel Aviv. Emergency officials in Ukraine say 2 people were killed, 13 injured after a missile attack on a residential building in Kharkiv. You're listening to ABC News.
And now the KSL In Depth.
Donald Trump found guilty. In-depth coverage on KSL News Radio.
Manhattan's District Attorney Alvin Bragg brought the charges against Trump, and after the verdict was read, he took a moment to speak to reporters at about 4:30 this afternoon. We carried this live on KSL News Radio. He was measured. Alvin Bragg did not gloat.
I did my job. And I think particularly I talked about the history of the office. My personal history. I started as a prosecutor in 2003 in the Public Integrity Unit in the New York State Attorney General's office. I served also in the Public Integrity Unit in the Southern District of New York. These are kind of cases I've done personally, and it's a hallmark of the tradition of this office that I'm proud to lead. And I don't want to go into the whole body of litigation, but we now have a federal court decision ruling on the legal theories. We had a state court decision on the omnibus motions. But most importantly, today we have the most important voice of all, and that's the voice of the jurors. They have spoken. Donald J. Trump has been convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business records.
Alvin Bragg there, the Manhattan District Attorney. He says the judge has scheduled a sentencing hearing for the 11th of July, just a few days before the Republican National Convention. KSL News Time 6:19 now. Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have leftover slowdowns southbound I-15, Murray through Draper. That starts right about 5300 south. Northbound I-15, still bugged down Lehigh up to Bangerter Highway. 5400 south, both directions still slow, especially between the West Belt and Bangerter Highway, and also some leftover slowing westbound on the 201 from the Mountain View corridor into Magna. Mark?
Well, it's been elevated KSL travel times through Utah County on southbound I-15 from basically prior to 2100 North Lehigh down to about 8th North in Orem, and then coming back the other way hasn't been much better. Between 8th South Orem up to 5th East American Fork, and then Redwood Road's been awful both sides. Very unusual, especially for the northbound side. But both sides have been heavy between north of Porter Rockwell and 2100 North. Steve.
Salt Lake City PD responding to a fresh crash right now. North Temple in downtown Salt Lake City, right around 1950 West. Full speeds on northbound 15, leaving downtown up to Willard Bay State Park. Leftover slowdowns, though, on the southbound side of 15, Riverdale to Sunset. Thriller is back. See your favorite characters and the smash hit Halloween performance this fall. Buy now, scare later. Don't miss out. Tickets to Thriller on sale now at odysseydance.com. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL 7-day forecast has a really nice start. Temperatures in the 70s on Friday under sunny skies. Northern Utah stays nice while southern Utah's hot. St. George will be up near 100 degrees. Here along the Wasatch Front, we'll see mostly sunny skies and upper 80s on Saturday, low 80s and partly cloudy skies on Sunday, and then our first 90-degree day of the year possible on Monday. Temperatures next week have a little bit of everything. We'll be in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, so make sure you got plenty of layers. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubank.
We're at 70 degrees in Salt Lake City. Your 7-day forecast brought to you by Performance Automotive Bountiful. We're going to check the markets in just a moment. Stay with us.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, only on KSL News Radio.
Straight up now, tell me, do you really want to love me forever? Oh, oh, oh. Or am I caught in a hit and run? Straight up now, tell me, is it gonna be you and me together?
News here, and I could not help but come this spring to see my friends at Replenish Compost. Of course, I'm talking about Greg and Mike. Greg, I guess I should start by telling you happy birthday. You're 30 years doing this now.
Replenish Compost is in its 30th year since it was developed by Connie Cannon and Peter Lassick all those years ago. It has proved itself over these 30 years to be a great material that looks good, that has great nutrients, and people love it once they use it.
Mike, what makes it different than all the others that are out there?
It's got a lot of nutrients. It's dark black, so a lot of people like it as a top dressing to dress their gardens and flower beds. It's just beautiful, and it works great.
We'll bring it to your driveway in bulk or bag or in the super sack, or you can come and pick it up with your truck or trailer.
Stop by to see them where they've always been at 4660 South, 200 West in Murray. Give them a call at 801-262-5142 or find them online at replenishcompost.com. Replenish. It's good stuff.
I'm John Curtis. As a small businessman, I built gun ranges to help our law enforcement and our military. As mayor of Provo, I took aim at reducing waste, and we balanced our budget. In Congress, I've stood up to Biden and voted repeatedly against his reckless spending.
And when it comes to standing up to D.C. and protecting our land, John Curtis has done that too. He forced the federal government to transfer more land back to Utah than anyone in state history.
I'll never let D.C. bureaucrats or outsiders tell us how to manage our land.
And John Curtis is the only candidate China has threatened to arrest because John stands up to the communist aggression. And Curtis is fighting to secure our border and stop the cartel's deadly flow of drugs in our country.
I will always stand up for America and Utah. That's why I approve this message.
John Curtis, conservative Republican for U.S. Senate.
I'd be honored to have your support.
Paid for by John Curtis for Utah.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit RAIN.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by Rain and this station.
Dave and Debbie.
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
We're watching Utah's Money, brought to you by Utah First Credit Union. Mortgage rates are back over 7%. Freddie Mac says the average 30-year fixed mortgage is now at 7.03, about a quarter point higher than it was a year ago. Hungry? Well, if you have Amazon Prime, good news. You get a free subscription to Grubhub for food delivery. With today's announcement, Prime members will get free delivery on orders over $12. Wall Street today, before the Trump verdict was announced, the Dow is down 330 points. The S&P down 31. The NASDAQ off 183.
911, what's your emergency?
Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son.
On September 12, 1995, McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas.
There was no sign of forced entry. It was just as if McKay had walked out of his own free will.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, feels that justice was never truly served. Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's Dino Day at all Sinclair locations Saturday, June 1st. Fuel up, saving up to 30 cents per gallon on Sinclair's top-tier premium-grade fuel using Dino Pay. Come early and grab some Dino swag. Remember, Saturday, June 1st at all Sinclair locations.
Love the filler moments at a Sinclair gas station near you with Dino Care, our top-tier gasoline for a cleaner engine. Some sweet and salty snacks for the commute, and a big green dyno for the memories. Find a gas station near you at sinclairoil.com.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Before you hit the road, hit the KSL preset.
Going to work and back home?
Or running errands around town.
We tell you which roads will slow you down
and how to avoid them.
With traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, KSL is a welcome backseat driver.
I'm Ricky Meese.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth.
We have you covered
on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
It's still a slow drive on southbound I-15 as you go from Murray through Draper, northbound I-15. Spots of heavy and slow traffic, Lehigh up to Bangor Highway. A little busy westbound on the 201. Most of that is between Redwood Road and Bangor Highway. Mark?
Well, speaking of Redwood Road, it has been ugly in both directions between north of Porter Rockwell and 2100 North, and now we're getting word of a wreck northbound Redwood at Camp Williams. That can't be helping matters. And in Utah County, still have some pretty thick delays on southbound I-15 coming Lehigh down to Orem. Steve.
And we still have a Salt Lake crash right now, North Temple at 1950 West in the clearing stages. Normal speeds and KSL travel times right now, northbound 15 between downtown Salt Lake and Brigham City. Southbound 15 still a bit thick in Davis County from Riverdale down into Sunset. No issues traveling I-84 through Weber Canyon tonight or on Highway 89 in South Weber. Attention, Wasatch Front businesses and property managers. GoPave Utah is a full-service parking lot paving, repair, and maintenance company serving the Wasatch Front. Contact GoPave Utah today. That's gopavutah.com. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's been a nice day with temperatures down just a little bit. We've been in the low 70s, below normal for this time of year. We'll get back to normal on Friday, 78 and sunshine, and then above normal on Saturday. 87 and mostly sunny, partly cloudy and 83 on Sunday before hitting our first 90-degree day of the year next week. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubank.
You're listening to Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News
on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM
and 1160 AM.
Good evening, 6:30 at KSL. Jeff Caplan here. It's 72 degrees. KSL's top story. After more than 4.5 years since we learned about 2 missing kids in eastern Idaho, Chad Daybell has been found guilty of killing them and his first wife. KSL News Radio's Adam Small was in the courtroom this afternoon in Boise.
Well, we really had to squeeze in and get comfortable with each other as we packed into the courtroom. Chad faced very similar charges that his wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, was convicted on last year, including murder and conspiracy in the deaths of her 2 youngest kids, but there was one charge only he faced.
First-degree murder of Tammy Daybell.
And the result was the same for all 8 counts.
Guilty.
Chad showed no emotion, just looking at the judge the whole time, while victims, investigators, and others alike either let out a built-up exhale or began to cry or hug one another. But the jury's role is not done. Now they have to decide whether or not Chad will be sentenced to death. The first hearing of the penalty phase of this capital trial is tomorrow morning at 8:30. I'll be in the courtroom to keep you updated. In Boise, Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Outside the courtroom this afternoon, J.J. Vallow's grandpa, Larry Woodcock, reacted to the guilty verdicts.
I'm happy it's over, and it's 99.9% over. There's one stage left. And I will say this, whatever verdict, whatever sentence the court and the jurors decide on, I will absolutely live with it.
Woodcock thanked the jurors for their work and apologized for the things they saw during the trial. You can find a complete timeline of the Daybell case as well as video from today's proceedings and the reading of the verdicts on our website, kslnewsradio.com. Donald Trump has been found guilty at his historic hush money trial. Maria Chaleos is live at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, Donald Trump has become the first former president to be convicted of felony crimes. New York jury finding him guilty of all 34 counts of falsifying business records to illegally influence the 2016 election through hush money payments to an adult film star. ABC's legal analyst Royal Oakes was surprised by the jury's unanimous verdicts.
The amazing thing, of course, is that everybody seemed to think that, nobody can agree on Donald Trump. You couldn't get 12 people to agree on anything about him, and yet this jury, in less than 2 days, was able to unanimously come to the conclusion.
Mr. Trump reacting outside the courtroom following his conviction.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
Cheers erupted outside the Manhattan courthouse. Bob Adams, a Trump opponent, was among those outside when the verdict was read.
I think it's a terrific mark. It separates the United States from dictatorships and authoritarian governments where president is above the law. This is a man who is a threat to the electoral process in this country.
Trump will be sentenced on July 11th, 4 days before the Republican National Convention. He faces penalties ranging from a fine to 4 years in prison on each count. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
Senator Mike Lee has some choice words following the Trump verdict. He posted on his personal X account that he doesn't respect the verdict and other people shouldn't as well. Congressman Burgess Owens wrote in a post on X, "The American people know this crooked case was never about the rule of law, but a political witch hunt perpetrated against the Democrats' top political opponent, President Trump." As far as fundraising goes, this verdict was not bad for the former president. His server crashed after putting out a fundraising email 1 minute after the verdict was read in court. KSL News Time 6:34 drawings released today show us what the new ballpark is going to look like in South Jordan, the new home for the Salt Lake Bees. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson has more.
The new renderings of Daybreak Field, they look impressive with various levels of club seats. There's even some party decks along the first and third baselines. The stadium overall will have 6,500 fixed seats. Then there's a grass berm behind the right field fence for picnics and families. Overall capacity will be at 8,000 fans. The stadium is under construction. It's scheduled to open in time for the 2025 season.
You can read more about the stadium and see the drawings at KSLNewsRadio.com. There are talks about putting the street in front of the Delta Center underground.
If 3rd West between North Temple and First South was a tunnel, a promenade could be built on top. John Larson, Salt Lake City's transportation director, says the UDOT road is wide and intimidating.
Yeah, it's a little bit stressful to cross a big wide street like that, whether you're 90 or 7 years old, to be able to just seamlessly cross, just a pedestrian plaza.
There are many things to consider, utility issues, the tracks line and groundwater being most prominent. Larson says building a bridge might work and be less expensive, but poses other potential problems. The tunnel idea was recently presented to state lawmakers, but there have been no follow-up discussions. Tammy Kikuchi, KSL News Radio.
KSL News Time, 6:35, time for First Look traffic. Ricky, lingering delays?
Lingering delays, especially on Redwood Road. We've had an accident on the northbound side in Lehigh by Camp Williams, and that really added to the backups through that stretch. But southbound slowdowns continue from Camp Williams down to 2100 North. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Thanks, Ricky. We'll be back with more news in just a moment. It's 6:36.
Are you stressing about your IRS tax problems? Have you received notices from the IRS threatening to garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, or seize your property? You need an ally. Allies Tax Relief has tax attorneys and enrolled agents that are ready to fight for you. They have saved millions for taxpayers just like you. Allies Tax Relief can help put a stop to IRS collections and, most importantly, negotiate your tax debt. Here's Brenda, a happy client of Allies Tax Relief.
I owed the IRS around $57,000, and they're about to start garnishing my paychecks. I heard a commercial on the radio about Allies Tax Relief, so I thought I'd give them a call. After a day, they were able to at least stop the garnishments, and after a few months of negotiations, I walked away owing the IRS only $301.
If you owe the IRS, call Allies Tax Relief right now for your free consultation. Call 800-230-5174. 800-230-5174. That's 800-230-5174.
Paid for by the Lyman for Utah Committee.
Over the last 3 years, the average homeowner has seen their property taxes increase 55%. So what we're doing is taxing people on inflation. And that's not right. We've got to do something about that. As the governor, I would ask the legislature to give me a bill that stops taxing unrealized gains on people's homes. I'm always more concerned about the balance in the family's checkbook rather than in the state's checkbook. I'm Phil Lyman, and I'm running for governor.
Phil Lyman for governor.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
KSL in the palm of your hand.
When the app came out, I knew that I could stream the radio station directly through there.
I just checked there to see if there's anything pertinent. I regularly use the KSL app.
Get the app for KSL News Radio.
KSL News Time, 6:38. Just one person has been charged after yesterday's stabbing in Harriman that left a teenager dead. The police say 8 people were involved. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobe with details.
The stabbing happened after a fight between 8 people in Harriman. Police say a group of teens and adults went to the Valley High School graduation to confront 2 others. This wasn't the first time this same group of people have had a fight, but this was the first time with weapons. Deputy Chief Cody Stromberg says 2 others involved were also taken to the hospital with more minor injuries.
One of the adult females sustained an injury to her hand. It's not a stab wound. It was a crushing injury as part of the fight. And then one of our juvenile males sustained a stab wound to the face.
Police are not releasing the name of the 16-year-old who died yesterday because of his age. Amy Kobe, KSL News Radio.
Utah public health officials confirmed the first report of rabies in a bat found earlier this month. Epidemiologist for the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, Karen Valcarce, says summertime sees an influx in reports of rabid animals, probably because there are more people outside.
People are out more and about during the summer. They're more likely to come into contact with wildlife because they're recreating outside.
If you come in contact with or suspect an animal is rabid, you should contact your local animal control office. KSL News Time, 6:39. We have traffic and weather together, brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Ricky, what's going on?
Well, for those who are still making their way home on southbound I-15, it's still heavy and a little slow between the south interchange and about 146 south northbound I-15. Breaking up, but still some busy and slower traffic Lehigh up to Bangor Highway. Some westbound heavy traffic on the 201 between the West Belt and Bangor, but overall the freeways are starting to ease. Mark?
Yeah, but not so fast on Redwood Road out in the Bluffdale area. Northbound's been particularly rough, struggling 2100 North Lehigh up to Porter Rockwell. A crash is reported at Camp Williams, and then I-15 is still backed up in Utah County. Worst of it going to be northbound between 8th North Orm and Pleasant Grove Boulevard, and then southbound from Pioneer Crossing down to Geneva Road. Steve.
And we still have a crash in the clearing stages right now in downtown North Temple at 1950 West. I-15, though, crash-free, full speeds, traveling both ways between South Salt Lake and South Willard tonight. No issues traveling I-84 as well. Same for Highway 89. West Davis Highway looks good. Same for the West Belt and Legacy. See what's cropping up this spring during Park City Gallery Association Shop and Stroll this Friday, 6 to 9. See 12 participating galleries showcasing watercolor to oils, abstract to modern, in multiple methods and mediums. Steve Carlson at the KSL Traffic Center.
A beautiful day with mostly sunny skies and temperatures a little cool. We've been down into the 70s. Overnight lows will be in the 50s. We'll see sunshine and 78 on Friday. 80s return on Saturday and Sunday. And then our first 90-degree day of the year in Salt Lake City on Monday. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubanks.
70 degrees. Taylor Morgan, our KSL at Night co-host, joined us earlier to talk about the Trump verdict. You'll hear that conversation coming up. We're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're live on the KSL News Radio app. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station. It's 6:42.
I'm Jason
Jason Walton, candidate for U.S. Senate. I'm recording from the Tucson sector of our southern border, and nobody's here. Our government should defend our territory, but President Biden, Mitch McConnell, and career politicians are funding war in other countries while the cartels are waging unchecked war here on American soil. I'm standing up to build the wall, end catch and release, and secure the border. Stand with me.
I'm Jason Walton. The cost of food, gas, and interest rates have all risen because career politicians are addicted to spending, causing the federal debt to go up and our money's value to go down. My opponents are all big spending career politicians. But I'll stop runaway inflation by passing a balanced budget amendment, forcing the government to spend only what we give them. I'm Jason Walton, a Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Friends of Jason Walton for Senate.
Advertising used to be simple. Your options were radio, TV, newspaper, and let's not forget the yellow pages. Now it seems like a tidal wave of options. Podcast, cable TV, streaming, OTT, CTV, audio networks, smart speakers. On top of that, you need digital marketing for your website along with SEM, SEO, display, video, YouTube, email, and all the social media platforms. Look, you're the expert in your business. Wouldn't it be nice to have an expert to market you? We are Bonneville Salt Lake, the local marketing and media company you know and trust. We reach customers across all digital and social platforms and have the reach of traditional advertising available as well. We find your customer anytime, any place, anywhere on any device here in Utah or anywhere in the world. We work to optimize your results with our in-house local team of experts, providing you with qualified leads, not just impressions. Contact Stephanie Palmer at KSL for a free consultation, including a complete digital audit with no obligation or cost to you. Email spalmer@ksl.com. That's spalmer@ksl.com.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password.
For you to become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to lifelock.com.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
KSL News Time, 6:45. The 3 things you need to know this hour. First,
Chad Daybell has been found guilty on all 8 counts, including the murder of Tylee Ryan, JJ Vallow, and Tammy Daybell. I'm KSL News Radio's Claire Scott.
Second, former President Trump found guilty on all counts at the hush money trial. More from ABC News in just a moment. Third, our biggest traffic trouble spot.
Heavy delays southbound Mountain View corridor between the 201 junction and 3500 South and northbound Redwood Road. Still seeing a lot of slowing going through Lehigh, in part due to the crash at Camp Williams on the right. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures down just a bit today, but a warm-up is coming. I'm Kevin Eubank.
70 at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios now. Our top national stories.
This is a special report from ABC News. Trump found guilty. I'm Daria Albinger. A first for Donald Trump and for the U.S. presidency.
Former President Donald Trump defiant, arriving home at Trump Tower after being found guilty as charged of all 34 counts of falsifying business records. Trump, now a convicted felon. The historic verdict coming after nearly 10 hours of deliberations. A unanimous jury of 12 New Yorkers made Trump the first president in history to be a convicted criminal.
ABC's Aaron Katursky in New York. Sally Caplan of Omaha, Nebraska was outside the courthouse.
I am feeling emotional because I have 6 grandchildren, and I want the United States to be for them what it was for me, which, you know, as a baby boomer, which is growing up with presidents that you can admire and feel safe with and look up to.
The former president will hold a fundraiser in New York tonight and a news conference tomorrow at Trump Tower. This is ABC News.
And now the KSL in-depth. More on former President Trump's verdict. He was found guilty on all 34 felony charges. KSL at Night co-host and political consultant Taylor Morgan joined me live earlier. He said, I'm not surprised by all this.
To be convicted on all 34 counts, I think that is really significant legally. But when it comes to the politics of this decision and how it will impact the upcoming election, Jeff, according to a brand new poll that was just released today, this is an NPR PBS NewsHour national poll, it's clear that this conviction will really have no impact on whether or not voters support Donald Trump, are more or less likely to support Donald Trump in the upcoming presidential election. Listen, at this point, we all know who Donald Trump is. We know how he conducts his business. And I really don't think this conviction has a political impact on Trump other than perhaps stoking the fire among his base of support who have called these kind of allegations and these kind of trials witch hunts from the very beginning.
Well, funny you mentioned stirring up the base because Mike Lee just posted on X from his personal account, what they're doing to him is wrong, very wrong. Spread the word. And then there's a graphic that says Trump never surrender. Rush in and support now. So the fundraising is already underway.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Jeff. Unfortunately, with all of these charges, with these trials, I think what we are seeing, at least in political terms, we are seeing that we are fighting the fire of Donald Trump with nothing but more oxygen. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be pursuing justice. However, Donald Trump is a master of this game. And we really, with all of the press coverage, with all of these headlines, we are only seeing all of this play into more and more political support for Donald Trump. Of course, Jeff, we can't ignore the legal repercussions here. We know that because these charges, these convictions were handled in a state court, if Donald Trump were to become president, again, he could not pardon himself from these convictions. So how that plays out legally is another question. That's not my wheelhouse, and I'll leave it to Greg Skordas and others to answer that question.
Well, Greg Skordas will be back here later on, and Leah Murray also, KSL at night, hosts just after 7 o'clock, and I'd say they have a lot to talk about tonight. Hope you'll join them at 6:49. Traffic and weather together brought to you by Dino Day. Celebrate on June 1st at all Sinclair locations. Here's Ricky Meese.
A lot of your Salt Lake County freeways have cleared out. It's just I-15 that we're dealing with some leftover heavy and slow traffic scattered between 7200 South Midvale to 146 South, and northbound I-15 still seeing some busy and slow traffic. Lehigh through Draper up to Bangerter Highway. Also westbound 5400 South still really packed in and slow, going from Taylorsville over to Bangerter Highway in Kearns. Mark?
It's been a mess on Redwood Road and northbound, in particularly hit hard, 2100 north up to Porter Rockwell. A crash in that back up at Camp Williams, likely not helping any. Slowest traffic in Utah County still going to be 8th North Orem, headed northbound to Pleasant Grove Boulevard, and southbound is clearing out. Then a spot of delay on Mountain View now, headed to 7800 South over on the west side. Steve.
Up north, no wrecks, no delays on I-15. That's both ways, normal speeds and KSL travel times between downtown Salt Lake and Willard Bay by the Flying J. Same easy drive on the west side belt. Legacy looking good tonight. Same for Highway 89 in South Weaver and the West Davis Highway. UDOT construction alert starting Monday. Planned for overnight and weekend lane closures on northbound 15 in Sandy as crews begin bridge work. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL 7-day forecast is a bit of a wild roller coaster. Tonight, 53 mostly clear and beautiful, 78 and sunny. That's spot on normal for temperatures on Friday. We'll get back to the 80s and mostly sunny on Saturday and partly cloudy in 80s on Sunday. Then we're at 90 for the first time this year in Salt Lake on Monday. We rapidly cool Tuesday, Wednesday back to the 70s and the 80s. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Kevin Eubanks.
70 degrees, your 7-day forecast brought to you by Performance Automotive Bountiful. So Donald Trump's Truth Social. How do you think it did in after-hours trading? Stay here. The answer's next.
Jeff Caplan's Afternoon News, only on KSL News Radio.
Look in my eyes, what do you see? The cult of personality. Like Mussolini and Kennedy, I'm the cult of personality. The cult Multi-personality.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
It's a mystery where Old Spice finds its amazing scents like Himalayan sea salt, but I'm thrilled they have because no other body wash exfoliates and moisturizes 24/7 like Old Spice Gentleman's Himalayan sea salt body wash. Now, if only there was a mountain range separating the Indian subcontinent from the Tibetan plateau where I could hide my Old Spice and keep my family from stealing it, my impossibly smooth skin will finally be safe.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024. I support Rochelle Morris for Salt Lake County Council because she's a collaborative leader.
I support Rochelle Morris for Salt Lake County because she's conservative. I support Rochelle Morris for County Council because she has the experience and skills to get the job done.
Rochelle Morris will work hard for all of us who call Salt Lake County home.
Hi, I'm Rochelle Morris, and I approve this message because I'm ready to make Salt Lake County work better for all of us. We need leaders on the county council who will make sure our parks are safe for our families to enjoy. We need innovative leaders who will stop property tax increases and be wise stewards of taxpayer money. I would love to earn your vote in the Republican primary on June 25th. Learn more at voterochellemorris.com. Again, that's voterochellemorris.com.
Paid for by Rochelle Morris for Salt Lake County Council.
I'm Jenny Taylor.
And I'm Michelle Scharf. We are excited to invite you to listen to our podcast, Relentlessly Resilient. Each week, a guest shares their own powerful stories of enduring challenges and the tools of resiliency they have learned along the way. Sometimes it's the small steps of finding their support system, knowing that they're loved, and being kind to themselves.
And what I love is that we can see everybody has a story, something they've been through, lessons they've learned, something to share and add to this conversation. We all come away uplifted and enlightened and really educated on certain steps we can take and tools we can develop ourselves so that we can also move forward and live our best lives.
Find us on KSLpodcast.com, the KSL News Radio app, or your favorite podcast platform.
And remember, whatever you do today, remember to be kind. You have no idea the struggles other people are dealing with in their lives.
We're watching Utah's Money, brought to you by Utah First Credit Union. So Trump Media, the company that owns Truth Social, fell by 15% in after-hours trading immediately after the verdict was announced at the Trump trial. Things eased by the end of the after-hours session, which is thinly traded. Trump Media, symbol DJT, was down 9%. Of course, the market was already closed when the verdict was announced after 3 o'clock here, Utah time. A luxury sneaker brand is such a hit that it's going public. Golden Goose sells sneakers meant to look dirty and scuffed up. The cheapest pair goes for $560. Their IPO is expected to raise more than $100 million. On Wall Street, before the Trump verdict, the Dow is down 330 points. It closed at 38,111. The S&P down 31. The NASDAQ down 183 points.
Encounter an out-of-this-world lunar landscape at Craters of the Moon during its 100th birthday celebration beginning in May. There's nothing like it on Earth. Learn more at visitidaho.org.
2 Intermountain Health Hospitals, Intermountain McKay-Dee Hospital in Ogden and Intermountain Medical Center in Murray, have been named Top 50 Cardiovascular Hospitals for 2024 by Fortune Magazine and Pink AI, which evaluates heart hospitals annually to determine facilities that are excelling in providing high-quality, affordable heart care. This is the 4th consecutive year that Intermountain Medical Center has been named to the Fortune Top 50 Heart Hospitals, and the first year for Intermountain McKay-Dee Hospital. Brought to you by Intermountain Health and KSL News Radio.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security.
Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving